Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
This is the next search on February 28, 2020, 7:44 p.m. How, does the FBI find people, and people misspelled P-E-O-O-P-L-E? Did the defendant find out how the FBI finds people in this case? Oh, she found out.
What more do you need to see?
One of these days I'll get it right. I'll figure out how to do this. Welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Ian comes in with this gem. Wait, did Recovery Addict just show his pickle on stream? I did. There it is, right there. Courtesy of Stephen Lee. Great graphics, great artwork. We've used this for almost a year. I might need a new one here soon. But thank you, Ian. I saw what you did there. Let's see. Kim R, welcome. You were the first in chat today.
Taking it easy.
First person in chat has the distinct privilege, the honor, the dubious calling, you might say, of owning the intercept. Kim, owning the internet, which is not like an internship. Kim, you've won many times in the past, so I don't doubt you can handle this again. Thank you very much for being first in chat. Let's see. She says, it's been a bit, but I think I remember how to do it. Wonderful, Kim. Thank you very much for being first in chat. Glad to have you here. The first person in chat is like breaking the ice for everyone else. It's like no one knows what to say first, and so the first person wades in. It could be a sensitive thing. Kim, you are a habitual offender when it comes to being first in chat, which we appreciate. Thank you very much. All right. We are coming back to trial, and by trial I mean we're on verdict watch in the Jennifer Crumbley involuntary manslaughter case, where she is charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in the school shooting that her son did. So it's a little bit out there.
Ian Runkle.
Ian, my friend, it's been a long time. It's been since Friday since we've talked. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Oh man, I'm on the edge of my seat. Sorry, there's sound effects. I'm going to turn these down. You're not used to the sound effects in the background, so I'll turn them down for your call. What are your thoughts as you're watching this? And we're sorry.
I mean, that's kind of a disappointing question to see from the jury, because I think this one should be an acquittal, but that question to me says that's not where we're going. I mean, there's still a chance, but that question really sounds like it's the sort of question from a jury who's now in a position where they're going to get boxed into convicting.
They basically asked how many different ways can we get to involuntary manslaughter, right?
It looks like two? It looks like basically, is it 2 separate paths? Either of those paths is enough to convict, which is what the court agreed with, or is it one path that you have to sort of hit both elements to? And that to me suggests that the jury was in agreement, or at least substantial agreement on one of those paths, and maybe had more disagreement on the other. And so now they're probably going to come back and be like, well, yeah, okay, so we're convicting. Yeah, we're convicting because we were all sort of in agreement that one of those was fine. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean for certain. There's still the possibility that they may say, okay, it might be that you could think of other possibilities here, right? It could be that they're sitting around going, well, we're definitely not on this one. Do we even need to talk about this? Or is it, is this other one enough to convict? That's possible.
There could still be a holdout. There could be just a handful of people who are curious about this, and the foreman's like, I don't know, let's ask. So anything can happen here, but it's not a good indicator. And you saw that in Shannon's response, right? She was fighting for some sort of response to gain ground here, to sort of introduce some doubt to the jury, or at least steer them back in her direction. And although I was not impressed. I mean,
her closing got a lot better towards the end of it, but it started out bad. And I know a lot of people in various chats disagreed with me, but I did not like the beginning of her closing. And I mean, there were parts of it that were clearly objectionable, in the sense that when she starts bringing in her personal life, when she starts, going on and being like, this could be you, prosecution could have stood up and objected.
Yeah. And they didn't.
But they chose not to.
for whatever reason. I don't know why. What else were they supposed to focus on right there? They've got their rebuttal, right? Which is coming up, which I guess
I wouldn't have objected if I was the prosecution either. It's like, why would I object to this? Don't interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake.
Yeah.
And when she was chasing down, going into I have an oopsie baby. I'm like, what? They actually brought that up to the jury because they wanted the jury to dislike Jennifer Crumbley.
Yeah.
And so is now the time to be adding yourself on? And yeah, this is the other one. When she brought in the cheese pizza, I was just like, I literally was on Twitter going, what the actual F? Because
it's crazy. I've never seen anything like that before in a closing. My gut, and obviously I don't have the experience that you have, but my gut was she must be trying to get the jury to hate her more than they hate her client. I don't see how else you could, or what else you could be doing here, but.
The thing is, it's a decent argument of where does parental responsibility start and end on this, and she's trying to create a relatable example. It's just, you don't pick a relatable example that involves cheese pizza. You pick one that involves
I was thinking
your kid gets a hold of the car keys and goes, driving.
There must have been some question that was answered by the jury when they were seating the jury that she's had some insight. And she's like, that juror's had a child that sent some inappropriate pictures to them. There's got to be that sort of level of knowledge for you to go out into this argument and say, this is the one I'm going to sail with.
I actually think it's just that, from what I understand, she does a lot of sex offense kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably just the example that leapt to mind, and that she's probably a little more desensitized to it because it's easy as a lawyer to forget the reactions the ordinary people have to these kinds of things. And some people just this, I've described it elsewhere as a berserk button. It's just a thing of, they hear that, they're angry, instantly angry. And, if you get one juror who's like that, suddenly you've just taken a clear acquittal off the table. You're going to end up with some sort of, because if what you're telling the juror is somebody, because she's trying to get the jurors to think of themselves in Crumbley's seat, and the jurors are unlikely to do that. What they'll instead think about is somebody else in that seat where the issue is cheese pizza, and going, well, we'd want that person convicted if it was a cheese pizza file.
That's the wrong example. Saying, going to my kids, piano recitals. Sometimes, especially when kids are very early on some, whether it's a sport or a musical instrument, it can grate on your ears. Earplugs were invented for this very reason. And so I can see some people say, T-ball is a little bit much for me to sit through. An hour of kids, missing the ball and running around and falling over. It's she probably could have related somewhat to there, but she just kept going and going and going.
Yeah. And it there were points where it's just oh my God, no. And there were parts that I thought were brilliant. They have so many text messages, and then look at the giant stack. But they could only out of that dig out however many. I was like, that's really
beautiful.
Good.
That was beautiful. And where did the Kardashians fit in? Weren't they mentioned somewhere? I missed that. I don't want to go back and listen, but somewhere the Kardashians
Her opening
were mentioned.
was Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift. Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. And I think she mentions Taylor Swift again at the end somehow. Or at least
I was just like, A, I mean, the Taylor Swift reference comes off a little clumsy. But B, like, Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. You know what jurors want to fix bullet holes with? Jail time. So I thought that was really a bad opening.
Well, the next line is, you say sorry just for show, and we are running a sorry counter. So I'm not sure. I think it was a good fit.
Well, and you say sorry just for show sounds like there should be actual consequences, not just sorry.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that some of those lines would have been great for the prosecution's opening. No. The prosecution's opening and close were boring and formulaic and basic, right? They were just kind of going through the motions, but they got the job done.
They were delivered
in the
robotically.
Sense that they hit.
It was literally they're reading line after. I mean, it's emotional. The argument they put forward, if they could do it just off the cuff, look at their eyes, get some emotion going, that was there. But it was like, what comes next? What comes next? And it took them out of the emotion for me. Like they didn't know what, the story. They didn't know, they weren't feeling it from their heart. They were just reading it off of paper.
I'm also just wondering how she lost the motion in limine to exclude the videotape of all of that, like of the scene and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because that whole like breakdown scene that she had, A, was just bad lawyering, but B, like how does the court allow that videotape to be shown to the jurors when it's not relevant to these charges?
Or the excerpts from the journal. That's a lot. I guess there's going to be plenty of fodder for the appeal. So but I don't know what
the old line is. Yeah. Appeals are for losers, and I think that the appeals court is going to be really reluctant to budge this, even though she's got good issues on appeal. I think an appeals court's going to be reluctant to budge this, just because it's too high profile. We get appeals courts in the U.S. saying things like, actual innocence may not be enough. I'm like, okay.
What? Excuse me? Oh, man.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Well, the jury's back. So, they're coming up on, they're around 2.5 hours, or sorry, 3.5 hours, I think. And we've heard before the juries be told, don't just get in there and do a straw poll first thing. Read the instructions. And it may be that they don't know where everyone stands right now. So it's still, the possibility of a hung jury is still very high, I think. But I'm thinking today is still, it's going to be today. That's my feel.
That's my thought as well. But I mean, there is a possibility there. And a hung jury may be where you end up. I mean, all she needs is one parent there who this resonates with. Heck, one person in that room who might have been the awkward, difficult kid, right? Yeah. And might be thinking, what would have happened if my parents had to treat every awkward, difficult kid like they were the next school shooter?
And that's
the thing that, that people sort of miss is just baseline fallacy issues, right? The bottom line is we're talking about preventing a behavior that is vanishingly rare at the end of the day. Yeah. So how do you how do you predict a? We'd all love to see zero, right? But
this is more rare than lightning strikes. And how do you predict where the lightning's going to strike, right?
That's exactly it. I mean, and in what you'll end up with is people in hindsight, once you've already seen the lightning strike, they'll say, oh, well, of course it was a thunderstorm and you were, near that tall building or tall whatever. But at the end of the day, it's, that's after the fact. That's after you've seen the lightning. Whereas it's such a rare circumstance that in this case, if you always predicted that whatever sort of cause of things you were looking at, that this would not be a school shooter, like if that was your prediction, you would be right 99.9999% of the time. So how do you see that coming? Nobody else. I mean, the thing that I always just get stuck on this one is counselor after counselor after, like the school disciplinary officer, none of them saw this.
No, they're trained.
The disciplinary officer, yep, trained to, and I mean, the school disciplinary officer had his bag with the gun in it in his hand and literally just gave it back to him.
And commented on how heavy it was.
Yeah. We're blaming Mom for not seeing it, and he didn't even just go, hey, I'm just going to have a little look at this, right?
Yeah. We're getting word that there might be another jury question coming in. Yeah, so this one might be more insightful. I wonder if it swings the other direction. Remember in the Maya trial, some of the jury questions we thought, they said, how are we supposed to, at this rate, you're not going to get enough money for gas or something like that. And we're thinking, oh, great. And then it came back the other direction. Maybe they're teasing us here in this one too. But.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes jury questions can be used as a way to press one holdout one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ian, as always, it's wonderful to talk to you. I loved being on with you and Rob on Friday Night Frenzy. Thank you very much. I love that you're hanging out here. Feel free to.
I will be in the chat, and I've got a Monday stream if you feel inclined to join, but no pressures.
Awesome. What time's your stream?
6:30 Mountain, so 8:30 Eastern.
8:30 Eastern
is the start time.
Okay. I think Dr. Joe is doing one with Nick Whitney from the Maya trial at 6 Eastern time, and so watch that one and then jump over to. I hope he
wraps fast.
Yeah, so that'd be good. Awesome, sounds good. Thanks. Always good to talk to you, Ian. We'll see you.
Cheers.
All right, bye. All right, let's see. We've got a question coming in here. Let's see if we've got some audio. Everyone's filing. It might be a few minutes because they have to bring Jennifer Crumbley back up. Everyone has to be here. It looks like another question. So trying to see if we've got just one second here. Got too many buttons today. This is trying to get better feeds. Give me just 1 second. Okay, let's cut to this one. All right, so we are 2 hours and 10 minutes. 2 hours and 12 minutes into deliberation. Sorry, I can't think and talk at the same time. So sorry, that's me behind the scenes. This is tense. The silence probably makes it better. Ian, sorry about that. So I sit here messing with my buttons on this side of the screen. 60 times 240 is 4 hours, Vince. It's 4 hours. I didn't do well in math, but I did well enough. Bad Juju, welcome to the gallery. Thanks. Look at that yellow courthouse. Thank you for continued support. Appreciate that. I think we had a couple messages I missed earlier. Let me see if I can catch them in the little break before the jury comes in. Vince Clortho, welcome to the gallery. Brand new member. Thank you. Crazy Cat Queen says, I send a fact sheet references to your email for review. I will, I'll check that out. Thank you very much, Crazy Cat Queen. Brianna Pickney says, problem with JC not regretting anything? Yeah, that could be a problem. It doesn't sit very well. And then, of course, Bad Juju, we got you there earlier. Thank you. Thank you very much for your support. All right. They all huddle around. I don't think they get the note already. Maybe this judge does it differently, but I've always seen before. I've always seen the note be read sort of live in court, but they're passing around a paper as if they have the question emailed to them by the judge, and then the judge just reads it for formality. But Shannon's got a single page piece of paper. All the prosecution is passing around that note as well. So they're just a little bit different here in this courtroom. Joni says, I want to know what happened to Shannon's co-counsel. That co-counsel was assigned by the court for a specific reason. It was limited to just counseling the defendant based on the risks of having the same law firm represent both clients or something like that. It's a funny dog picture. Ian's like, I got the email. Yeah, it's a meme. It's a meme off the internet. Where we're at right now, because there's a question, we do not, that's the question. That's what I'm talking about. That paper they're holding right there, they're not supposed to zoom in on it, even though this camera would be able to zoom in and read that if you wanted to. That's not allowed. So they're talking it over and discussing what sort of answer they're going to give the judge. The last time the question came out was not favorable to the defense. It did sort of slant towards the prosecution in what they were seeking clarification on. This one may be more to that effect or the other direction. So I don't see. Look at the hands on the hips. Look at the body language of the three gentlemen in back here. That's interesting. Now I'm super curious. We need body language experts to tell us what this means for prosecution. Not a lot of smiles, a lot of stone faces, not a lot of looks. We should get audio here shortly. Crank this up here. I really have to boost the judge's audio because she's so quiet. I'm going to take this call, but if it's the judge comes in, I have to hang up on him.
Andrew.
Hey, Andrew, this is Scott. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'll hang up on you if the judge comes back, but you're okay with that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Andrew, what's on your mind?
So this is the first time I'm calling in. When that special agent was on the stand a couple weeks ago, last week, I'm thinking it's a long trial, and the prosecution said, was the gun case found on the bed? And he said yes. But then when Shannon objected and the judge asked him, he goes, no, it was not on the bed. And I saw Marquise, that shitty prosecutor, wink at him, and then Karen started stuttering, we'll ask another witness. That just did not seem right in my head.
It was a mistake. I believe that case that they were talking about was actually found like in the kitchen on a shelf, and it was just empty.
Okay.
It was just empty, I think. There was
Right.
like an extra case that was involved.
Right.
But I got to remember. But I did see that. It was sort of weird. I think he misspoke and was sort of called out for it. Shannon caught it and tried to correct it, but she can't testify. She can't object because the fact not in evidence. But yeah, good catch. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, that's the last thing I'm going to say. I'm pretty quick.
No, go ahead.
I think I'm the only one. Maybe there's more, but I absolutely despise Karen McDonald. I've never seen such a snotty, rude
careful.
prosecutor. And not to mention, during Shannon's closing arguments, she's looking at the jury kind of like embarrassed. It's like, who the hell are you?
Yeah. Well,
never liked that woman.
Andrew, appreciate your opinion. Thank you for calling.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, let's be nice, people. Let's be nice. We've got prosecution has seemed very snippy. Defense at times has been very snippy. This is a tough case. Honestly, this is a tough case. Think of us here in chat. Okay, we've been here for 2 weeks, right? And it's been tough. There have been days where it's like, look, we just need to end the live stream because we're sort of losing control here. So our emotions are running high. We've got very strong feelings one way or another. These guys have been living this case for a long time, and it's just going over these facts nonstop. That's tough. That's tough. Let's see. Shannon looks very stressed out. Let's see if I can do a full screen here and see. She doesn't look happy. I can tell you that. The body language is interesting, especially for prosecution. Looks like this special agent is scrolling through Instagram, I think, or Facebook. It's on some vertical scrolling social media app, it looks like. Is there videos playing as he scrolls? Spicy trial, says Leslie Culver. It is. It's super spicy. The witness, ATF, was not the one who found the case on the bed. It was found by another law enforcement in the search. That's why Shannon objected. ATF couldn't have testified to the fact. Thank you, Celebrial. It was already out. Some other officer had placed it there. Or some other officer had found it, I think. It's just a jury question, but jury questions are incredibly insightful. So we're waiting for the defendant to be brought up into the courtroom. We are at 3 hours and 40 minutes of deliberation time right now. The case they found in the kitchen had the cable lock, the one that they think wasn't used, right? Mags G, this is the second jury question. We've been told they've got another jury question. The first one sort of favored the prosecution. Let's see if we bring... Let's film our security procedures here, because that's always a good idea. That's the door the defendant's going to be brought through. That's also the door the jury comes through. So when you see at the end of the day, when the judge says, "Okay, I'm going to release the jury," and then they keep the defendant there for a little while, they don't want the defendant going down the hall with the jurors at the same time, because it's a small courtroom, and that's just the way the halls work. Shannon's looking for the sorry counter. I think we got 2 more sorries, which we'll have to add. So we're up to 250. We got 2 sorries in the jury question back and forth. So we're up to 250. We were at 248. Okay. At least the jury chairs look comfy. Do you think they spin? They don't look like they spin. I would want a spinny chair so I could just spin myself in circles if I got bored. All right, here's our defendant coming in. That's Jennifer Crumbley. The optics of this is quite interesting. You compare this to, say, like the Brian Kohberger trial, where Brian Kohberger is charged with murdering 4 people. She's charged with involuntary manslaughter for 4 people. Brian Kohberger just waltzes into court, sans handcuffs, and she's in belly chains and cuffs all the way till she's, under guard. So, just different states, different rules. Amanda, I really doubt that the jury question here is going to be about their voting and where they stand. I think this is going to be more of a question about the evidence or a question about how they're supposed to deliberate or find. But we should have the judge in very shortly. Yeah, this is also after a judge got jumped. Saw that video out of, I believe, Las Vegas. It was crazy. Renee, I don't think some of us would ever qualify anymore. I guess when the judge is here.
I got a question from the jury. So both attorneys. Hopefully they could answer. The question is, can we infer anything from evidence or witnesses that the prosecution did not bring, specifically not bring in the shooter or other people who could answer how he specifically got the gun?
Ooh, can we infer anything from witnesses the prosecution did not bring, specifically not bringing the shooter, as to how he got the gun?
I believe you need to send in 3.2, Your Honor, because a reasonable doubt is defined as a fair, honest doubt growing out of the evidence or lack of evidence, and it appears they're asking about lack of evidence.
That's a good one.
They're asking if they can fill in the blanks about why the shooter is in there, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
it was a good try.
I agree with that, but I think it goes to, they're asking essentially why the shooter didn't testify or other witnesses, and the defense doesn't have a burden to put any on. So we believe it's important to remind the jury that the burden is on the people and that a reasonable doubt can come from lack of evidence.
Just again, we can't guess what they're thinking, we just answer the questions.
I think Shannon's got a good argument there.
I'm sorry, which instructions did you...
I was thinking, well, these are the preliminary instructions 2.9 and or 3.5, was it?
Oh, 2.9 I think would be appropriate here.
I'm sorry, 2.9 and what was the other?
3.5 maybe. I don't think it says. I can bring them in and read 2.9 and 3.5 to them if you want. .5 talks about evidence, including only sworn testimony, witnesses, the exhibits, admitted evidence, and anything else I tell you to consider as evidence.
It seems on point, Judge.
I have no objection to 2.9. I am just making a record that I'm also requesting 3.2.
Okay, wait, do you want 2.9 or 3.5? Either one of those. I'm trying to keep myself to answering the question that they asked. They have an instruction with them about reasonable doubt. They've heard it a bunch of times. They do not have in the jury room 2.9, although they do have 3.5. So,
Judge, the answer to the question is no, and I think reading 2.9 again and 3.5 probably appropriate given the question.
Okay. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring them in now. Okay?
Thank you, Judge.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to bring them in.
So Shannon lost another one. I don't know what 3.5 is, but the jury's going to be brought in, and we're going to hear them read this. The question they said was, are we allowed to infer anything from the fact that prosecution did not call specific witnesses? For example, they didn't call the shooter in to testify as to how he got the gun. Can we infer something by that? And so that's the question. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. There's another sorry. We're up to 251. Thanks for keeping track. My sorry counter is also the clock counter right now. I would say this question is possibly more in favor of the defense than the prosecution?
All rise for the jury.
We're going to pause the timer while they're in here.
Seated. You want me to know, I thought it'd be easier to bring you in than try to keep you in my terrible handwriting. So you asked, can we infer anything from evidence of witnesses that the prosecution did not bring? The answer is no. And you say specifically not bring in the shooter or other people who could answer how he specifically got the gun. So I'm going to take you back to our first day of trial and read you this instruction that I read you on the first day. When it's time for you to decide the case, you are only allowed to consider the evidence that was admitted in the case. Evidence includes only the sworn testimony of witnesses, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and anything else I tell you to consider as evidence. You also have a copy of 3.5, which I'm going to read to you. You don't have a copy of 2.9. That was read in the beginning of the trial. 3.5 says, when you discuss the case and decide on your verdict, you may only consider the evidence that has been properly admitted in this case. Therefore, it is important for you to understand what is evidence and what is not evidence. Evidence includes only the sworn testimony of witnesses, the exhibits admitted into evidence, and anything else I told you to consider as evidence. Many things are not evidence, and you must be careful not to consider them as such. I'll now describe some of the things that are not evidence. The fact that the defendant is charged with a crime and is on trial is not evidence. Likewise, the fact that she is charged with more than one crime is not evidence. The lawyer's statements and arguments and any commentary are not evidence. They are only meant to help you understand the evidence in each side's legal theories. You should only accept things the lawyers say that are supported by the evidence or by your own common sense and general knowledge. The lawyer's questions to the witnesses and my questions to the witnesses are also not evidence. You should consider these questions only as they give meaning to the witnesses' answers. My comments, rulings, questions, and instructions are also not evidence. It's my duty to see that the trial is conducted according to the law and tell you the law that applies to this case. However, when I make a comment or give an instruction, I'm not trying to influence your vote or express a personal opinion about the case. If you believe that I have an opinion about how you should decide this case, you must pay no attention to that opinion. You are the only judges of the facts, and you should decide this case from the evidence. At times during the trial, I've excluded evidence that was offered or stricken testimony that was heard. Do not consider those things in deciding the case. Make your decision only on the evidence that I let in and nothing else. Your decision should be based on all the evidence regardless of which party produced it. You should use your own common sense and general knowledge in weighing and judging the evidence, but you should not use any personal knowledge you may have about a place, person, or event. To repeat once more, you must decide this case based only on the evidence admitted during this trial. So I'm hoping that I helped you. All right? So I'll have you return to the jury room.
All rise for the jury.
So sometimes when this happens, when a question is answered, the jury has a rapid fire, if that, then what about this question? So there's a chance there could be another question really quickly, but that was a pretty firm, pretty clear answer, especially how it ended, that you're only supposed to consider the evidence.
You may see the lawyer's approach on the issue I brought up previously.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this, we don't know what this issue was. She had the lawyer's approach earlier regarding this, earlier in the day. We don't know. We don't have any indication as to what this is. It's not the gag order, because that was openly talked about. Rejected juror says their question favors the prosecution. Jury is wondering why the shooter did not come to testify for the defendant. But they asked about prosecution specifically. Can we infer anything based on the fact that prosecution did not call certain witnesses? I think that the question said prosecution. Once they're done here, we'll go back and listen one more time so we understand the question. Man. Yes, the shooter is taking has through his lawyer announced that he intends to take the fifth if called to the stand because he is appealing his sentence, not his conviction, because he pled guilty. He's appealing his sentence. And so during the appeal, it would be very unwise for him to speak and do things that might hurt that appeal. So he's not testifying for that reason. I'm impressed with how fast the jury's working here. Sorry, I gave them a little bit of a break. Start the counter again.
All right.
Oh, she's not going to tell us what it is. All right.
You may be seated.
So the wording that Shannon wanted included was one that would say that you can consider the absence of evidence. And that was rejected because they already have that in their jury instructions. So the judge says, I don't want to give them something they already have. They don't have these first instructions, which were covered in the first court, but not included in the packet.
Call from
Media done right.
To accept, press 1. To send a voice.
Hello, this is Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, you got to turn your volume down. It'll really confuse you.
Okay, let me go ahead and... Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's on your mind?
Hi, I'm a first-time caller. So glad I got in because this case has just been tried.
It's crazy.
And I first heard, I guess I can't really say that. I first heard about this when the Daryl Brooks was going on. And I think the first thing that came to my mind is, how can we not compare this to what happened in the Daryl Brooks and his mother, who came on the news and said that he had these mental illness, and then gave him car keys, knew he didn't have a license, and gave him a car. And then he used it as a weapon to do what he did.
So the similarities in that case, you've got a mom who owns an item, or she owned the car, the vehicle, that lets her son use it. Some similarities a little bit with the firearm. I think the problem where the cases differ in a great deal is that for Daryl Brooks, I think this was a spur of the moment decision. That there was no indicator. There weren't plans. He hadn't mapped this out in his head and planned out the route and scheduled the timing and arranged for all the pieces to be in play. It was just he made a very bad decision because he was angry about something that had just happened. So there was no indicator to his mom that could have happened. Now there could have been some other reasons why she could be charged. I don't think he had a license at the time or was not insured.
No, he didn't have a license. None of nothing. So it's like we compare. I feel like that they're looking for any and all victims, and then they're not looking at the school, because then at that point we'd have to admit our children aren't safe. Yeah. That we're putting our children in safety in the hands of people that maybe we feel they're safe because they're trained, they're going through these classes. This certainly wasn't the first school shooting ever. We know that. Yeah. They took classes and they didn't even take reasonable care. Not even slight reasonable care. They didn't check his backpack. If the parents didn't want to take him home, then they could have called. they didn't give him the keys. Yeah. So it's just super frustrating. It's like, this won't bring these children back. It's a horrific tragedy. But I'm waiting for the trial of these two the counselor and the dean. When is that trial going to come?
Well, I don't think it's going to be a criminal trial. There will be a civil trial. And I think what will happen in the civil trial is a lot of information will come out about how much the school knew if it goes forward. And that's why it won't go forward. There will be a settlement outside of courts. There will be a big payment. It will all go away, and everything will just be quiet. And we'll never know if those 50 assignments that we found in the backpack had been turned in and graded, and the school had a chance to see it or not. We'll never see all that information.
Exactly. But I don't want to say feel for her. I feel her as a mother, obviously, because a mother of two sons who was hyper vigilant because I had boys, but, and I think girls have problems as well, but it just seems to me like I think there's more on trial here than I think it's a gun issue. I think and I think that's what they're going at here is like, you should not have had a gun in your house. Well, that's second.
I think that issue, the fact that there is a firearm argument in the middle of this trial, will make it harder for jurors to change their mind. That a lot of people will vote or lean one direction depending on how they feel about firearms in general, right? And then that, since that's usually a fairly strongly held belief, either for or against, it might be harder for them to let go of something that they're holding on to or an opinion in the trial if they're trying to come to a consensus. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and let's see what happens.
All right. We'll see you. Bye.
Call from the lawn care guy.
Hey, the lawn care guy's here. Hey, how are you doing? This is Scott.
Good. It's actually G4 Outdoors in the comments. I have two different channels.
All right. G4 Outdoors. Welcome.
With the last caller, that really brings into point of what I was wanting to talk about and how guns are so negatively talked about by the media and politics. Mm-hmm. I think that the gun has no reason to be talked about in this other than it was the tool to do the job. But if they did lock that gun up, you can easily go into the toolbox, grab yourself a pair of wire cutters, and you've got the gun and you've got the bullets. What if it was put up even further? The kid could still gas bomb the entire school and do more damage. That was just his.
There are ways, but the argument on the other side of that is that there are very few items that can do that much damage that quickly from a distance as a firearm, right? It's designed for that purpose. A car obviously is in that same realm, but it's hard to get a car down the hall of school. But I hear you.
But the car could easily go through the front door of the building and do whatever damage he does there. And if I sound a little off in the law world, I'm quite ignorant, so forgive me of that.
You and me both. Welcome to my world. G4 Outdoors. Right. And you've got the lawn care guy and G4 Outdoors. That's
correct.
I'm curious. I haven't looked at the content you make. I assume lawn care. Do you do the videos that we're all addicted to watching, where you take the overgrown lawns and make them beautiful again?
Those do make a lot of money, but it's not my style. No, the G4 Outdoors, fishing, hunting, and just all around reviews on outdoor products is my main gig.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Well, wonderful.
And to end that off, congratulations on your 55,000 subscribers and 6,000 concurrent viewers right now. That's awesome. Proud of you.
It's a busy day. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for your input today as well.
Have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see. EC was found guilty as an adult. Brooks also guilty as an adult. So where do you draw the line of parental responsibility for independent adult acts? On this one, I would say because he was actually a juvenile when he did it.
Call from
Robin from Canada.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Robin from Canada. How are you doing? This is Scott.
Good. How are you? Oh my gosh, I'm nervous to call in again. I called last week and I kind of froze.
You did fine. Then. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, I'm from Canada. So I'm not talking about the GUN thing. But I want to talk about a mom's point of view, because 15 years ago I found my calling, and it was working with kids with autism. So I worked my entire life with kids, babies up to 4 years old, get them ready for school, transition them in, send them off. Mm-hmm. 8 years ago, I had a baby boy, and it was my first. So, I mean, what's normal to me, I didn't know what was normal other than that. I raised him. By 3, there was quite a few healthcare professionals involved, developmental pediatricians and occupational therapists and speech therapists and stuff. And we did that for 2 years, and nobody ever wanted to give a diagnosis. And I was always kind of waiting for it, but I'm mom. I am not putting myself in those shoes, right? So I just followed their instructions. So it's time for registering from school. Well, with the diagnosis, I could keep him home for a year and give him an extra year of ABA therapy and then send him off to school, but he needs a diagnosis. At that point, all those professionals in the room looked at me and said, what do you think? And I didn't know how they expected me to give an honest answer of what I thought was wrong with my son.
Man.
Because I was too close.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So
you know what I mean? Like, I knew something was wrong all along, and I was waiting, I was doing all the right things, and I'm like, I'm mom, I'm biased, I'm just mom in this position, and I didn't know all along that, they were kind of looking at me because I had most experience and everything, and I'm like, I can go down a checklist with you, but that's not real because every single kid with autism is different.
Right. Yeah.
So it's being a parent, I mean, I can't excuse anything she did or didn't do.
Right.
It's just, I don't know, just something to think about. I thought about it all weekend. I don't know if she was or wasn't. It's just a possibility. I know I was. I think there was a lot of signs, personally.
I don't know. But I'm just speculating. She has one child. Right? If she had like 5 children and this was one of them, she might say, hey, why is one child very different from the others? But if this is your only child, okay, and this is your experience as a parent, right? This is how parenting is going. This is how it is. It's not abnormal because everything you're experiencing is normal for you, even though it might be abnormal for someone else.
Right. I mean, my husband moved away a long time ago, so we didn't really have friends or family at all. So, I do my job every day and I see what I see and I go home and my son is my son. I don't see what I do all day. I don't cross that in with my family. So it took a lot on my part after that to, find out where I really laid with it.
Yeah.
But it's, that's just my personal story.
Yeah.
I thought about it all weekend. I'm like, oh,
well, Robin,
should I call?
Thank you. Your conversation has resonated with many people in chat, and it brings the Canadians out of the woodwork as well. So that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh, God,
I appreciate you calling.
Glad I didn't. Thank you very much, Scott, and thank you for everything you do.
Yep, we'll see you.
And chat's great. Love y'all.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Let's see. Who's this one? Brandy Rose says, I'm hopping in when I can. What questions have been asked so far? So thankful for your coverage. Love seeing you on FNF. FNF was amazing. If I could just sit on the sidelines, this is like the front row seat to the Super Bowl for me, to sit there and watch Ian and Rob on FNF. The only scary part was they kept asking me some questions.
To accept, press 1. To send.
Let's see. Crystal, is that you on the phone?
Yes, it is.
Welcome. What's on your mind?
So I'm having a hard time with this case. I'm a single mom of 3 and a foster parent of a 16-year-old boy.
Bless you.
Who has high potential risks, I'll put it that way. I do bag checks every morning, every afternoon, room checks, and I'm by myself. This family, they had one kid.
And 2 parents.
It's just hard for me to imagine they didn't see anything worth checking on. I struggle with that.
I don't know. It's at times, I mean, like, how could you have missed this, right? Because it seems to me like they would be very obvious signs, and at other times it's like, well, they just were parenting differently. How can I fault them for that? But you've been in a situation clearly with being a foster parent and teenage kids at risk. You're saying it's just something you do. It's just part of how you need to parent.
Absolutely, it's got to be done. I mean, room checks even. I do room checks. His room, he could hide anything in there, or either one of those rooms.
Yeah, I know. For me, growing up, if I made my room a mess, my wife, first of all, if I make my room a mess right now, my wife will have words to say about it. But growing up, if I made my room a mess, my mom would not have given me another room to make a mess.
Absolutely not.
That surprised me a little bit. That he spilled out of one room. It's like, well, I guess you're done with that one. On to the next. that was a little much.
So that was all I had to say. The law still puts me on the fence on this one, but as a parent dealing with a kid, I don't see how I don't know. I struggle with it.
Thank you so much for your perspective. I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye. All right. Kayla says, I too have a kid with ASD and other comorbidity diagnosis. I also agree. I'm torn. I worked with kids as an advocate. How did they not see the signs? Is there more to the story that we don't know? I would say yes. There's always more to the story, right? I think there are very few times when just in the short period of a trial, even a multi-week trial, that you get all the evidence and you have a complete picture of everything.
Call from Janelle.
Good afternoon, Janelle. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing just great.
So I'm a little north of you. I wanted to comment on the last caller. Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly agree with her. I too am raising my niece and nephew. She's 13. He's 10. I lost my brother 4 years ago. And I've been raising them since for about 6 years now. When he passed 4 years ago, her mental health flipped. She went from a sassy, happy-go-lucky child to completely shutting down. And then some of the traits that I noticed in my brother, I saw in her, which, nature versus nurture, I get it. But I will say that she has gone from the sweet child to a troublesome child, and I've gotten her mental health. I mean, she started right after he passed with the grief bereavement counseling. It helped, but I will say when she got a little older, she started to resist it. She didn't want it because she thought she was doing something wrong. She thought because she had to go to therapy that there was something wrong with her. Right. But the 10-year-old, my nephew, no issues. He's a straight-laced character. They're like night and day. And I can see how that mom that just called in talking about the bag checks, and I don't want to say that I'm a helicopter mom, but I will say that I feel as though it's my responsibility to an extent to make sure there's nothing in my home that will harm her, self-harm, or other harm. So I do find it helpful that she thought the same thing, because I thought at first when I started taking my niece to counseling, some of the counselors that came here for home checks, they were upset at me for the fact that I have Ring cameras everywhere. I mean, if the child is sneaking out at midnight to go walk to the 7-Eleven for a bag of chips, I need to know these things. So she told me to stop doing the room checks, give her privacy. It's like what am I trying to say? It was a mixed message, because you go from wanting to do one thing and being told to do another. So I don't know what Jennifer, what she did at home, but something somewhere lacked, and I don't know who's to blame on this one.
You would not be alone then. A lot of us are looking for where the fault lies, if there is additional fault beyond the one person who's already locked up for life. But
because what if my niece, if she were to go out and commit something now, she's actually been to court for a couple of things. I mean, she's in middle school. She has her days and she has her issues. So she's been in front of a judge, but that judge has never held me accountable for the things that she's doing. So I don't know what, Virginia law is, but I just assumed that when I went in there that they were going to charge me as well. So I got nervous. I'm a first-time mom when it comes to my niece, because my son, he's 5. So I'm learning with her, and it's all.
Well, that's amazing. What you're undertaking is huge. It's a lot of work, and it's jumping in on the deep end at the same time. So,
well, she's going to get it. I mean, I feel as though she will grow out of the phase. Hopefully, she'll hit an age that every kid hits and says, "All right, it's time to grow up, and move on." But
something my wife says at the end of her lives, her videos probably applies here. What you're doing matters, and you're doing better than you think you are. I think both of those apply for you. Thank you. It's Christine, right?
Janelle.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think
Have a
you're
good day.
doing a great job. Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Call from
Allison from Katy, Texas.
To accept, press 1.
Hey, Allison. This is Recovery Addict. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I got through. I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, so I'll make it quick. It's really frustrating. Excuse me, I have a cold if you can't understand me. It's really frustrating how the prosecution is coming at this, because I think they're trying to take a back door into trying to get their pound of flesh. I don't agree with, Jennifer Crumbley's mothering skills or whatever she did, but I mean, it is hindsight, and I think if you dissect let's say the closing of the prosecution, what did they offer? They offered for behavior after, the horrific thing of the crime, and the only thing they're trying to tie her to is the gun being available and a couple of texts. And the thing is at the time this happened, there was not a law on the books for making sure guns were secured.
Right.
It is now. I think it might be this year they passed it. So they're trying to make that part of the charge. And I don't think the judge phrased the jury instructions to make that clear, that you have to have a combination of the gun being available and the negligence of not paying attention to it or whatever. But when I heard her give the jury instructions, it sounded like, okay, you have to find that this, and then then you can find her guilty. And I felt like it was totally misleading, and it makes me very frustrated. And another thing is, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad they have a copy of the jury instructions, because I wasn't impressed with how the judge read them. First of all, it's hard to hear her, and it may be easier for the jury to hear in the courtroom than we hear. But it was hard to hear, and the jury instructions are crucial. They really are. And it almost seems sort of nonchalantly just breezing through. I wasn't impressed with her reading style, and when she's laying down the groundwork for the rules of how they deliberate. So for me, I wasn't impressed with that part from her.
Yeah, the judge has, oh my God, driven me crazy. From the beginning, when she would butt in, and I don't know if you call it testifying, but she'd clear up what she thought about guns. And I thought, what the heck is she doing? Do not give facts into evidence. It's crazy. I couldn't believe she was doing that. It's like insanity to me. And it was driving me crazy that she wouldn't make rulings clear.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to have a good appeal case because the law was not on the book. So when there's permission to society in the state that it is okay to have your firearms unsecured and it's not against the law. It's sending a message that parents are not going to be held responsible. But now, because I really do think what people are saying, they really bring an emotion to it, that they're bringing it in, and it's not. It just wasn't a crime. And so the last thing I have to say is my son is high functioning autistic, and he's very intelligent, but his social skills, he can't put himself in other people's shoes. He can't guess what they're thinking. So he's not responding to conversations.
Right.
So not from a mother's standpoint, but if he has children and this was his child, they would crucify him because his demeanor, his reactions, anything he would say, people would take that as, oh my God, he doesn't care. He didn't give him a hug. He didn't say the right thing. And I think that was all that wasn't evidence. In the majority of the testimony or the witnesses, it was all about how she reacted, what she said, and that is not, to me, it's not evidence. It's only about the gun, and it wasn't a law on the books. It just wasn't. And it's just legally, it's not gonna, it can't stand. And the jury does it, it's purely emotion.
I agree that there's a real threat of an emotional verdict on this one. So, Allison, thank you very much.
And by the way, well, the prosecution has absolute immunity. They cannot, so they could do whatever they wanted and just take a chance at it.
You can't get sued for what you say here in court.
Right, and the schools have immunity too. You can't hardly find a case where schools are held accountable. So they had to come at who they had. And that's it. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Allison. Appreciate the call.
Thanks for your show.
All right,
I
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a couple super chats I want to get to that deserve to be read here. Michelle M says, as a stepmom of a 14-year-old, I struggle with her not seeing signs. How did she not reach out to the school prior regarding grades even? I just feel the neglect was more than day of the week or month off. Also, we have another one here from Mel Poi saying, Don't bet not searching backpack. Our school does search bags and metal detectors random. Son said when they would do one, all you could see was cans of chew being thrown off the school roof. Is that a state thing? Just chew all over the place on the ground. Baby Gator, bus stop rando, says, I have a kiddo with mental issues. My husband and I struggled for years. Part of my struggle was my husband had mental health issues and saw himself in our son. So for a long time, he was in denial that there was a problem. Man, there's no easy answer here, and so many people are relating to parts of this. I wish I had the answers for all of you. The insight I'm getting from you, though, is phenomenal. Thank you so much. Okay, I apologize. I've missed a ton of phone calls here. We're going to try to take a couple more here while we wait for updates from the court.
This is Stevie.
Hello, Stevie. This is R.A. How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. What's on your mind today?
It's going long and painful, isn't it?
It's we're 4 hours and 16 minutes into deliberation right now.
Oh God! One of the things that I want to say that because so much has been said from every angle, but I want to remind, I guess myself, I'm speaking aloud, that this is about ordinary care.
Right.
So a lot of parents are seeing what's happening here. I'm going to speak both sides. A lot of parents are seeing what's happening here, and there's terror. There are parents of toddlers who are thinking, oh, my God, I'm going to be responsible for my child, doing anything. Another caller mentioned Daryl Brooks and his mom giving keys. And I want to say, number one, the Daryl Brooks thing, I hear you. But Daryl was a full-on adult,
right.
Okay? And at that point, the family was so broken. Should she have given keys? Absolutely not. I'm not suggesting that she should have done that. But, when we have children, we are responsible for them. That's the compact that we make. We give birth, not to 15-year-olds. We give birth to little tiny babies. And hopefully we see them and learn about them and love them and smell them and teach them. And sometimes they're autistic and they don't want to be touched, and they're quirky as shit. I'm sorry.
Yes.
They're quirky as hell. They become teenagers, whether they're on the spectrum or not. And my point is that for those parents who are afraid, who are watching this and feeling fear, and I get it, I think it's important to remember that your children are not you, and you are not your children, but we grow with them, and the key is communication and tenderness and love and humor. And the way that Jennifer Crumbley talked about the humor was not humor at all. She was clearly living in a world of it was all about her. She was angry. I don't know why. Families are messy.
They brought up some pretty salacious details about Jennifer's life. I'll say that way. And I'm not gonna be the person who stands here and judges someone else. But it seemed to me that Jennifer was doing a lot of things that she liked.
I think Jennifer
she was sort of in her own world.
You know, was Jennifer the most fabulous mother who took her kid to story time at the library, and then suddenly like a switch went off and she decided, okay, fine, you're 15, you know, I'm tired of your smell. It's all about me now. I'm going to go to the horses. Maybe, but I kind of doubt it. And the point is, we're not here to look at her life with horses. You know, if we were on the jury, if we were jurists, our job would be to look at the law and wonder about ordinary care.
Yeah.
Was she at least tuned in enough to recognize that her son was acting in odd ways? Was she taking care to address at least some of those odd ways, alerting somebody else if she needed help because it was too much for her? And I think, you know, and we'll get to James's trial when we get to James's trial, but the case is very frustrating for me because I have been tuned in from the very, very beginning, and I'm aware of the Miller trial, and I'm aware of I just kind of do this court thing and I read documents, like that's what I do. So I'm aware of all the stuff that's not been let in. But my point is, if I set all that aside and I just think about the case in front of me, I think the prosecutor did a really bad job. There were so many things that I felt like he didn't catch. And there were so many emotions that he didn't fight hard enough to let in, so that the, you know, issues that the jury should have been given. And I think that as much as I was made uncomfortable by Shannon's style, and it's a style, she was effective in keeping a lot of facts away from the jury. So good on her. And so in the end, we have to work with what we're given. You know, we go into this blind, and all we know is that there's this 15-year-old kid who's really very odd, and something's not right. And she wants to say she was so on top of the grades. But was she looking at the papers? Was she doing the homework so she could see the sketches and the doodles of death?
Yeah, the fact that there were 50 pages in his backpack, it sounds like they just got stuffed in there when they got turned back in and never went anywhere else.
I think that there are a lot of people who, so I want to make 2 points here. There are a lot of people who get stuck in this idea of hands off. You know, my kids are going to behave in ways, and there got to be natural consequences. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. Natural consequences. And really what that means is I want to step off so far that it's not my responsibility. And really what that is, that's based in fear. I don't want to address my kid because he might yell at me or he might be mad at me. Or it's too much for me to handle, and I don't want to address the fact that it's too much for me to handle. So, you know, there's that whole hands-off thing. Well, you know, what was the first thing that she said? Is he's going to suffer? Well, I guess he's going to suffer.
Yep.
I mean, so there's that, okay? So there's the side that says, you know, she really did fail to take ordinary care. I think all of us can agree on that, regardless of where we sit here. But at the flip side side is I think a lot of people get caught up in what the school did or did not do. And we've legislated that until our children are adults, parents are responsible. They are children, they are minors. And their parents are responsible to oversee and teach and guide and not encourage behavior that is lawless and harmful, and purchase a gun and not lock it up. And honestly, I mean, this kid had so much access to that gun. And it's upsetting to me that the jury is left thinking this gun was in the house for, days. And that he had never really before had, or at least they have the illusion that there really weren't guns available to him. And this kid was just really on his own 24/7. He was on his own constantly.
There were guns in the house before. There's even one of them was even, his. One of the 22s was his, and they'd had it for months, and there hadn't been a problem with that one.
I know. And I think they wanted to be buds with their kid. They wanted to just be the kind of parents that were just buds and doing their own thing. Like, you're on your own, kid. Like, what's for dinner? I don't know. What are you making? Like, I get that attitude, but at some point, like that play, what she wants to call playfulness, has to be built on top of a foundation of trust and respect and love, and the fact that our minors, whether they're 2 years old or they're 12 years old, they need to believe that somebody's driving the bus, because they know when they are small until they're adults, they know that they don't know everything. They need to believe somebody else has some control, even if they don't like to hear it.
Let me say this.
And,
you need a podcast. You need a show. You are speaking truth at a level that a lot of people say is resonating with them. Have you ever served on a jury before?
I actually did serve on a jury once. That was infuriating. Oh God. It was a civil trial. There was an officer who had struck and killed a boy who was on a bicycle. He was with his family Christmas shopping. It was nighttime. It was in my area. I know the road he was on. And he was driving a big ass SUV. Did it again. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to get my edit button out here for you.
So. Well, we're far enough into your stream now that maybe you won't get demonetized.
I think we'll be all right.
He was driving a big SUV, and, it was Christmas shopping, and the kid, he says, was in the, in the center, like there's a really big, wide, grassy median, and the kid was like, he was literally he was about to, I'm sure, wait for a safe moment to cross that highway because he lived across the street. And evidence to me showed that he was at a stop. He was standing still on the grass.
Yeah.
And I think that the cop in the fast lane probably went over that white line, just like drifted a little bit toward the median and struck the kid, and he died.
Oh my goodness.
And the family lived in the trailer park, and the cop, was not on trial for murder. It was a civil case. Mom brought this case. Her lawyer was amazing. And they were suing for damages and pain and suffering. We heard testimony about the fact that, there's no such thing as he died instantly. That doesn't, you don't die instantly. There's suffering on the way to death when you're struck on your bike, even if it seemed like by the time, the emergency people got there, he was dead. Anyway, I took it all in, and I went into the jury with my fellow jurors, and they were just disgusted with how poor this mom was.
Oh man.
And
we're gonna have to wrap it up. What was the verdict as far as that goes?
They ended up tossing her a bone.
Yeah.
They agreed to give her the most minimal, and I just could not get through to anybody. Nobody wanted to hear a thing I had to say, which is not new.
Maybe next time you'll be juror foreman and lead them to an epic victory.
It was, but you know what? As frustrating as it was, I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would do it again.
Awesome.
So
thank you so much. Appreciate your calls. Appreciate your insight. I've got a lot of people trying to get through. So. Oh, you're good.
Sure.
All right. We'll see you.
Have a great day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, we've freed up the phone line here. I know a couple people are really desperately trying to get through. I'm not picking and choosing who gets through. It's just I can only take one call at a time. That's sort of how it goes. So we'll try to keep the calls as short as we can here. Hello, Kayla. I guess I have to put a time limit on everybody today, just so everyone feels happy. What's your thoughts
That's
today?
Okay. I don't blame you at all. So I just wanted to say that, I mean, obviously, this is the first time I've ever called, but I've been with you through most of the trials. But this is the only one I'm so torn about. I have 5 boys, and of course, I'm just terrified that that something's gonna happen or I'm gonna miss something. And I just feel like the schools are always doing drills, and they're putting the money into like the locking devices, and they're teaching the teachers what to do if a shooter comes in.
In the worst case scenario, yeah.
Yes. They're putting effort in, and they're trying to be cautious, I think, but most are. And I just feel like as parents, we don't need to be like helicopter parents to just put a little effort in on our part as well.
Right.
To just flip through a notebook, open a drawer. I feel like people are taking that a little too far with every parent's going to be, prosecuted if they miss something. I don't think that's the case. So that's just my little opinion on this.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing it. And you did it very quickly. So the buzzer did not have to ring. You're good.
Well, toddlers are about to run in, so trying to
catch them.
Just say my piece, but I can't wait to see how this ends.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the call. We'll see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Call from
Third time try, first time caller. No, just kidding. Nicole Goodman's on the phone. One of the friends of the program. Nicole, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. I had to toss my 2 cents in for whatever they're worth because, they always say opinions are like tushies. Everyone has one.
And they all stink, right? Yeah.
Exactly. There's a lot of assumptions and being made about this poor mom and whether she did the right thing or wrong thing, if she made this gun accessible. Just from my perspective, not as an attorney, but just as a mom, we've got 5 kids. The oldest is 38, excuse me, and the youngest is 12.
Yeah.
And they're all different, right? Everybody keeps saying this kid was disturbed. Obviously there was something wrong, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times those signs aren't obvious. People didn't walk into the courtroom when Ted Bundy was on trial and go, oh my gosh, I knew that guy was a serial killer, right?
He was charming.
A lot of those personalities, they're adroit manipulators. They're very charming. They're very deceiving. And how many parents have a kid who's a straight A student or A's and B's, right? They've never been in disciplinary trouble. They do family activities with you. They have a friend. Maybe they don't have 50 friends, but they have a friend. And do you go through that kid's backpack and go through every single thing that they have because maybe there's something wrong with them? Well, that's the feeling I got from hearing the evidence. Their family looked completely normal. This case should terrify every parent because unless you are going to 24/7 go through your kids' everything, even if they're a straight A student or a good student or even a mediocre student. I mean, the evidence showed this kid was not a disciplinary problem. If this was the first time she'd been called in the office and the office told her, hey, you know what? It's not that big a deal. We'll deal with it. Just get him in some counseling. I can see her relying on that, right? It's not like she didn't go to the school. It's not like they didn't store the guns and the bullets separately. There's only so much you can do. Someone who's determined and manipulative and charming will find a way.
Nicole,
right?
Nicole, let me say this. One thing that bothers me is that so much of what we're trying to judge Jennifer Crumbley on are text messages. And
they're totally irrelevant.
Let me just say, as somebody who reads text messages all day, I get it wrong so many times. I read something and I don't hear the sarcasm in the voice. I don't hear the tone. I don't hear the pauses. Sometimes, punctuation might be a little off. Somebody else might use a word in a different way than I would use the word. And I miss, and we're looking at all this. We're trying to put that into our understanding and then translate that, use that as the lens as what we look at Jennifer through. And it's difficult for me to do that because I know how wrong I get it. I mean, I can't read a super chat right. And I can read the words, but my understanding is not there. Oftentimes I'll get somebody, what I meant was this. And I'm like, oh, now I see.
Right.
Yeah, now it makes
sense.
Right.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I want to say that defense attorney did the best closing argument I've seen in any trial that we've ever watched.
You loved it.
Over the last year. The best. Taking people and putting it in a way that's relatable to the average person, right? We're talking about reasonable care. Reasonable care isn't what a parent with a disturbed child would do with a gun. It's what a parent who had a kid with no problems and no suspicions of anything wrong would do with a gun. We have lots of guns in our house. We have rules. Taking a child to a gun range when you have guns in the house is smart. It's gun safety. Can you imagine if they didn't take him to the gun range? Right? They didn't teach him safety.
Yeah.
So, there's just, like I said, everybody has an opinion. I think this case is dangerous. Looking at those messages, gosh, I can't even imagine, like the lawyer said, some of the things that I've said to my husband or my friends, oh my gosh, I would be on trial in a heartbeat. We've all made comments like, oh my gosh, I could just kill that kid, or oh my gosh, I hate that person today. I wish they get run over by a bus. Yeah. People make those comments for whatever reason, but to have a jury look at them and then try and say, you meant that, or, without any context is just wrong. But I do want to say one last thing and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
I did mention this in chat before. There's a movie. It's called MOM, Mothers of Monsters.
I've heard of this.
But if you look it up, it's under MOM. It is 100% on point. I won't spoil it, but it's about a mother who is recording. So it's kind of like not a found footage, but a POV type movie. Yeah. She's recording her son from a very young age, and he's, I think, 14 or 16 or something like that in the movie.
And he turns into one of
documenting. Well, she's documenting. She thinks he's a psychopath. And no one will believe her because he's so good at manipulating his counselors and the way he behaves that every time she goes in, he just says, oh, my mom's a drunk. Yeah. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So it's really good. And I will say the entire movie is on point, especially with what the kid actually ends up doing. So I highly recommend it. It's free on Tubi. Free on Tubi.
Thank you, Nicole. It's always great to talk to you. Yes. One of our great friends.
Pleasure to talk to you, too.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Call from
Melissa P.
Melissa P. You made it through. Thanks for being patient. How are you doing? Let me just say, we're almost up to 5 hours, right? It's going to be...
I know. I was being... I think mine was the first day. I think I picked like 4 to 8 hours. So yeah, we're getting there.
You're still in the ballpark.
I'm still in there for now, but I'll try and keep this quick. I just wanted to say I've been struggling with this one since day one. I said that repeatedly, but I just wanted to give. I'm glad I'm not on this jury. I'm glad I could not sit through this case, but it's because of personal experience though. Because my son was 2 when Columbine happened, and I sat there watching it all day because I had just become a stay-at-home mom, so it was fresh in my head. So when he started school, he's 27 now though. So, and I only have one child. And I was fortunate to be able to stay home from 2 on. But when he was in the 4th grade in a Christian school, he was threatened that a kid was going to bring a gun to school and shoot him. And I got to school. I called the police because it scared me. Brought a deputy to the school. The deputy even said I couldn't bring my kid back to school after this. I couldn't because all the school wanted to do was pray for him. And I looked at the parents and I said, just answer me one question. I will let this go. Does the child have access to firearms? And they said, yes. And I said, can I ask a follow-up? I said, are they locked up? And they looked at me very plainly and said, no, they don't need to be. My son is an NRA certified instructor. He is in this industry He works in private security. So this is something that like we deal with regularly. I don't have a problem with people owning guns. I don't. I'm all for your personal rights, but as a responsible gun owner, as a responsibility, they should be locked up. And after 2 weeks, go ahead.
Let me interject a little bit, if you'll let me. When it comes to gun ownership, and especially training for guns, there is so much training, and gun owners will tell you about how to hold a gun correctly, to always, treat a gun as if it's loaded, never point it at something unless you intend to destroy it.
Exactly.
You've got all these rules. Those don't end when you put the gun down.
Exactly.
The responsibility, to be safe with a firearm, it extends beyond when you're in possession of it. I'm not a huge fan of a ton of laws restricted that makes it difficult to own a firearm. So I'm sort of like dancing on a line there, but I do feel that there is responsibility there. It's a dangerous weapon. Okay, I wouldn't leave knives around on the floor for kids. I have to know where they are at all times. But anyway, that resonated. Keep going. I'll let you finish up.
No. I completely agree with you. And I think what I'm stuck on, I don't care about her affair. I don't care about all the stuff, not the text messages, all of it. What I have been stuck on since day one is that when my son was a freshman in high school, I got a call that one of his friends thought he might be suicidal from the dean. I went to school, got him, and took him to a therapist that afternoon. I didn't wait. And so them going into the school that day and seeing that drawing, I'm not judging them for what they happened before that day. That day, the fact that they saw that drawing and that they left him there, the school failed in a lot of ways. I'm not denying that, but it's still a parent's job to parent. And I get the slippery slope, and I get when does a parent's responsibility, but 4 children died and 7 people were shot. And I have to take that seriously. She saw that worksheet, both of them did, and they left him. And that's what I'm stuck on. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Scott, for covering this, and love you, and just love that we can all agree to disagree.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. I know some people, the calls are difficult for you, whether you agree or disagree. That's all right. A lot of people have opinions. I'm trying to get to as many as possible. We've watched this, and a lot of us have some strong feelings. So I'd like to be able to listen, because I learn through listening. I might not agree with you at the end of the day, but
call from
I appreciate
AC.
you sharing. Is this AC?
This is AC.
AC, this is Scott. How are you doing?
Scott. First-time caller.
Well,
the day of
wonderful.
first-time callers.
Yes, wonderful day. What's on your mind, AC?
So, okay, I'm a homeschooling mom. I'm also a single mom, and I also work full-time. And I'm constantly
and do you have a halo?
fluctuating.
You have a halo and wings.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But this case has made me, just vacillate back and forth, and the dichotomy of, my life as my worldview versus the law, and it's been really nice to listen to all of the different views and just sort of solidify my own worldview, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so I guess I wondered, homeschooler to homeschooler, if you've had, I guess we all homeschool for different reasons, but for one reason, I think I feel as a parent, it's my role to not sort of push off my responsibility onto schools and onto other things. I take a more active role. So you feel that
personal responsibility yourself?
Heavily, yeah.
I'll tell you, for me, the decision to homeschool wasn't because of the safety issue of my kids going to school and what could happen because of the news and everything else. For me, it was the best choice for my kids who were struggling with at the time. There was a testing mechanism that was in place that was just devastating to them. And it was a test till failure. And so even if you aced the test, it would keep asking you questions until you failed. And when you've got a kid who is an overachiever, and they're finally at the end of the test, they're just in tears, just like,
I know.
I didn't know. I didn't know what the words meant, and because they're getting, they test way up here. But when you've got a kid that's just devastated by that, and that's the way that the system was going, we're like, that's not helpful to our kid who's, now developed this fear of tests, because, it ends, no matter how good I do, it ends with me failing. Is how it felt. So that for me was sort of one of the driving. And there were some other factors as well that my wife can get into on her channel. But
right.
Yeah, I'm grateful that this was a benefit. Just we don't have this concern as much. Usually if a kid there's violence in school, it involves a pillow or somebody throwing somebody else's toy. But it just homeschool, we've avoided that in some ways, and I'm grateful for that. But it doesn't mean that I don't have a responsibility in society to make sure my kid doesn't do something. I mean, it doesn't have to be in a school for my kid to do something that's a problem. So.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's where you wanted to go with the question. What else do you have?
No, I think at the end of the day, I had to lay aside my own personal feelings about parental responsibility and say, what was the law and was this case proven? And I don't think it was proven. As hard as I think there should be, accountability, I don't think that the case was proven. So that's where I stand with it, and I will give space to someone else to talk, and I'm so grateful for all of you guys.
Thank you so much. You're amazing. Keep doing the great work you're doing. As my wife says, you're doing a better job than you think you are. So, honestly, I say that, but effort counts, and we don't have to be perfect parents. Jennifer Crumbley didn't have to be a perfect parent, but I think what everyone is saying is there should have been some more effort.
Something.
Because kids can sense effort, right? Our kids are not
and my
saying,
heart just breaks seeing him afterwards. I mean, I feel like part of my soul is aching with that kid, and his crying out is just,
crazy. It hurts. It hurts. It really does. Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback. Appreciate your insight as well. Did a great job as a first-time caller.
Thanks.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye now.
Bye. Okay, I apologize. I'm only able to get one call at a time, so if you think I'm just not answering your call, my phone is ringing nonstop, just one after another, and it can only take one at a time. So let's see. Next one. That one didn't work. That one failed. Wendy Pinkerton says, I noticed that most of these attorneys commenting on this case have nothing good to say about Shannon Smith's closing. I have to disagree. I'm not an attorney, nor are the jurors. I just thought she was fantastic. Maybe note. I will say that just in my non-scientific polling, that the closing resonated with more women than men. Just from what I observed in chat, and that's not scientific because I can't see everybody who's in chat. I can't see, all the people who didn't agree, that didn't voice their opinion. But it seems to possibly resonate with moms who have dealt with issues like this. Okay, my phone's doing that thing where it hangs up on every call. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to restart my burner phone. Okay, there we go. It's back. We'll try it again, see if it works this time. Pam says, I just want to call and say hello and not guilty. That's all. Is there a third jury question? I haven't heard yet. We've got, let me see if I can check the Twitter feeds and see what's on out there.
Call from
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann, this is Scott. How are you doing?
Hey, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing just great.
I've never called before. I actually texted you earlier, and just so to keep it short, I'll just kind of go off that. But like you, I'm torn. With this case, regardless of the outcome, there is just so much permanent and long-term damage done to many people. I didn't realize that after the assistant principal spoke to Ethan in the hall that he went on to kill 2 more people. And that just broke my heart. I can't imagine what she goes through daily. Seeing Tate, who she apparently knew since he was 3, and then trying to save him but couldn't, and then knowing 2 more were killed after she ran up on him is just devastating, I think.
And she's just one example of massive trauma that has been inflicted upon this community. And one thing that really bothered me is when they asked the one witness about the journal, whatever, he said, well, if that would have been allowed in, you would have been charged with murder.
Yeah.
And since they didn't allow that in, I don't think he should have been allowed to say that. But I'm just going to just finalize one more thing. At Christmas, I was going through some of my parents' old things. I came across a letter written in 1949 by the Secretary of the State of Oklahoma to one of my family members after both of their parents had passed away in a quick time. And this line grabbed me. It says, trusting that you will see only the side of the cloud that is turned towards heaven. And that just grabbed me. So I just pray for this whole Oxford community that no matter the outcome and the damage it's done, that they'll eventually be able to see in new light and make purpose of what's been lost. So, yeah. Anyway,
that's
I thank you for all you do, and I appreciate you.
Thank you for sharing that. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Call from
Forever and Always Beautiful.
To accept.
Forever and Always Beautiful. You have tried a million times and you've always been during another call. You made it this time. Perseverance paid off. Are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, are you there? Forever and Always Beautiful? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We've got a lot of static on your line. It's what's you've been trying very hard to get through. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was watching Friday when we were traveling to Charleston. Sorry, let me mute my phone and my TV as well. I didn't think about it. My husband and I were listening as we were driving out of Charleston for a doctor's appointment, which was 2 hours of time, and we were discussing back and forth. We're gun owners. We have 7 children between us. My 2 oldest are step, my 4, and then we adopted one of our grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And when we brought guns into our home, we both had a discussion. I'm not a gun person. He is. So I do own a gun, and I do have a concealed carry permit. That's my business name. I'm sorry, guys. My name is Allison.
Allison, that makes it a little easier for me. It's a little awkward. My wife's sitting in the other room and in chat. I'm like, this is all I have.
So we're discussing back and forth about the guns, and we had this discussion early on that if we brought guns in, there had to be a safe that the guns go in, which we keep, and only our fingerprints open it.
Yeah.
And we both decided that we're both equally responsible. I read up on guns. I went to the safety courses. I did all the things. If one of our kids got a hold of our guns, they have to get through our door, which has a keypad lock on it. They have to get into the safe somehow, which only my husband and I's fingerprints work it. But if they got into it and they got a weapon, that would absolutely be our fault, because it is our responsibility equally, because we are the parents of the household.
To make sure they're
secure. We make the rules. Yeah. Exactly. We secure them. We keep them in a safe. We keep the doors locked.
I apologize for cutting you off here. Your phone is doing a thing where it sounds like you're in space and it's making a really loud buzzing noise.
That is wild.
The chat is dying. I'm sorry. It's super, super loud. Thank you for the comments. I don't know what's happening with the phone. I apologize for the problem. I just have to cut it off a little bit. The static is so bad. Is that all right? Okay, so sorry. So sorry. Thank you very much. Yep. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Call from
Katie.
Hey,
Katie, this is Scott. Can you turn your volume down a bit for me?
Yeah, I got it.
Awesome. What's on your mind today?
So I find it a little bit interesting that we're so willing to put 100% of the blame on the parents when it comes to the child doing something bad. Mm-hmm. But we currently have laws in some states where they're determined that kids the same age as he was when he committed this are able to do things that, I don't want to get like too political, but go against some parents' beliefs or what have you. Okay. So in some cases, children are old enough to determine they can make what I personally would consider, life-altering decisions or that type of thing. But in other cases, if they do something wrong, the parent has to take 100% of the blame.
Yeah.
Along with the child.
So you're pointing out the discrepancy between the laws, where some kids are allowed to make decisions that do affect people, that do change people's lives at younger ages.
Yeah.
The only fix for that is to change the laws.
Right.
Honestly, I think, and that it's an uphill battle no matter what, because the laws, and we're Pickles, not politics here, but so I'm not saying one side or the other.
No, I understand.
But generally, laws are made by people who have a reason to make the law, or by people who are getting donations from someone who have a reason to have that law made. That's where a lot of the impetus is for the creation of a law. Unless you have a big incident like this, you have a Columbine, you have a Sandy Hook or something like that, and then oftentimes that can drive the creation of a law. You might have a firearms law, or you might have a waiting period law,
right.
You know, things like that, a bump stock ban, things like that.
Yeah. And I mean, this question has been around. I remember I was in 9th grade when Columbine happened, and I remember at the time, you know, it was, how did the parents not know? How could they not see this coming? And yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's just hard to figure out where that line is. I know having a 14-year-old that he can do stuff that I don't want him to be doing. I mean, he's never done anything criminal, but you know, like, it's as much as I would love for him to be a little robot that I can direct around, you know, he does sometimes make his own choices.
Be a perfect emulation of yourself, because you were perfect as a
right,
kid,
exactly.
Yeah, I want my kids to be a little bit better than I was. Hopefully, that's
yes,
crossed.
That's true.
Man, thank you very much, Katie. I appreciate that. Thanks for your opinion there, and for sharing your insights.
Sure.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Sure. All right, bye-bye.
We're coming up really close to, we were 5 minutes away from 5 hours of deliberation. We anticipate the jury will probably be allowed to deliberate until roughly 5 p.m. tonight.
Call from
Crystal in Florida.
To accept, press 1. To send.
Hey, Crystal in Florida, how are you doing? This is Scott.
Oh, I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
Excellent. What's on your mind today?
Well, I also known as Feral Dragon. Yeah, my son
you've been
has
trying.
antisocial.
You've been trying a million times to get through. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, because you know this journey that I've been on with my son. It's one that people need to know how this works. And in the case, I know how the mom being checked out plays. Mm-hmm. My son, we knew something was up when he was really young, but we also know personality disorder runs in my family. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, was a little bit heightened aware, but it was like really excessive outbursts and hyper fears as even 3 years old. So it wasn't the like, kill your kid, kill the cat. It was more he was afraid, but now he is totally explosive. What they do is if they mask, they can mask. It's not conscious. People assign to them like it's intentional. It's just habitual. Yeah. It is just who they are. And they can mask it from an amazing amount of tests. It takes a fMRI to diagnose it for sure. But at times it takes them being in certain situations. And normally it's situations to put boundaries on them. If both of his parents were totally checked out and not participating in what was going on, the one place that had set boundaries was the school. Yeah. And it seems that sensation of shame, no matter, because not all of them are explosive. We have people that are antisocial that are CEOs, some of the top surgeons in the world. We need people who can emotionally detach from things. We just need it to be socially permissible.
Right.
The problem, what I'm seeing, is like my husband's from a more affluent background. He hasn't seen this before. So he literally checked out because of not knowing how to cope. Until our culture and society can see that this is as much as a kid born with type 1 diabetes or epilepsy. It is something where everybody needs to be on the same sheet. I came to a domestic violence shelter because my son was highly escalating 90% of his venom was at me because I was the one who set boundaries. Behavior was towards the school. They set boundaries. And when he's away from me or out of the situation, they look like perfectly normal people.
Yeah.
So, we need to acknowledge that it's not because parents screw up. It's a congenital defect.
Is that in every case, though? I think.
Oh, yeah. I think we're seeing it more and more, and we have to deal with it differently, like what we know about trauma and how it impacts our genetics and everything. Our courts are going to have to get better. But
well, maybe it'll be just a test we do for kids when they're born, and our DNA, analysis will give us. It's like pre-crime. Tell us what crimes are predisposed to commit.
About that. I don't know how I feel about that. That's kind of terrifying. I think it's just people need to learn to be aware, just like any other symptoms. If your kid has these symptoms, they have a cold. If they have these symptoms, let's talk. It might be like a mental health disorder, and we could get everybody on the same book to prevent them from sliding down the hole.
Yeah,
and until we do that, mom shouldn't be found guilty, even though her being checked out really personally pisses me off.
Yeah. Thank you, Feral Dragon. I appreciate you being patient, and thanks for your super chats. I'm sorry you had to do super chats.
Right. Well, have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Let's see. I definitely agree. Mental health is not talked about and given the status that it should. It's still shunned, no matter what. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see if we've got a better.
Call from
Forever and Always Beautiful.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press.
Hello, Allison. Are you there?
I am here.
All right. And I called you Allison instead of Forever and Always.
That's okay. That's okay. So to finish my thought, I was going to say that we have two special needs. God damn it, is this doing it again?
It is.
Weird feedback or something.
At least it's on your side now. It's just cutting out. Last time it was on our side. It was terrible.
Okay. Well, so let me get my thoughts together just one second. I apologize. So, we're responsible for our children. We're not allowed to spank them. We can't take away things that are important to them, but we're responsible for them.
Yeah.
And my older son, my oldest son, is special needs, and we took him to a doctor, and we followed that doctor's orders because we didn't know any better. They're the doctors, they're the ones that are supposed to know the business.
Allison, it's doing it really badly.
Oh, God.
I might need to have to put it in a text or something. I'm so sorry.
I don't know why it's doing that. We've never had this problem before.
I'm not sure. It might be a combination of my burner phone and whatever company you're dealing with is just a bad connection between the two. There you go. I'm so sorry, Allison.
The end of it is basically just that if we, now looking back at my older son's doctor's instructions, we absolutely would have been in trouble for child abuse following his orders. I don't know what the hell we were thinking, but he was the expert. So where does the line draw that we're responsible, but we can't do all these things? It doesn't make any sense to me. But I agree that the gun should have been secured.
Yeah.
And my husband agrees that, something were to happen, one of our children got our guns, we would absolutely, just like the little boy that shot his teacher, his mom stood up and said, "It is my fault," and she turned herself in. We would do the exact same thing because we are responsible regardless.
Allison, thank you very much. I'll let you go because the zipper sound is going again. But thank you very much. I will say that had they got doctor's advice, I don't think they would be in this situation. Had they reached out and said, "We're trying to get him some mental help," because I think, first of all, they would have been counseled and given advice about their guns, and they would have been a little more cautious with how they were being stored. And second of all, that in the records showing that they were trying to get him help would have changed the dynamics entirely. All right. Okay, we just passed the 5-hour mark in deliberations. I'm not seeing anything more on the questions. So we've just had those existing questions so far. I'm not seeing any additional tweets or anything letting us know otherwise. So maybe a verdict would, I don't know, that might be the next thing we hear from them. Let's see. My phone is just, it's trying to connect, but it's not liking it.
Call from
Stephen Jr.
Stephen Jr., this is Scott. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind today?
Well, so for starters, I'm from Michigan.
Okay.
I live in Lansing, so this kind of hits home to me. Although I guess I can't really say hits home, but it does hit home. It's just a little closer to home. So with that said, I mean, I definitely would have to side with the not guilty verdict, just because they didn't show any type of evidence, in my opinion, that shows that her actions were the cause of the death. Nothing that she did caused those deaths. So, in my opinion, there's absolutely none that shows that.
Yeah, I think the way the law is written, it's sort of loosely they're trying to say it's not her actions that caused the death; it's her failure to act where she should have or had reasonable force, foreseeably been able to predict that would happen. So they're trying to get it that way, and that's a hard one for me because that makes me have to think what she was thinking, or at least make a judgment call based on what she knew at the time, and I can't get in her head. Right, as best I can try. The evidence is difficult for me to say. Looking at all this, I know what she was thinking, and I know what I would think, but I don't know what she was thinking, and that's the call the jury's been asked to make here.
Right, exactly. Well, and just one more thing that I want to throw on top of that. I just want to make it short. So I was doing a little bit of research on Karen McDonald, and so I was reading for, the lead prosecutor for Oakland County. And I'm not trying to make this political, but I just want to throw this out there. So this is just strange to me. So she was elected as a circuit judge in 2000, or she ran as a circuit for seat in the Oakland County Circuit Court in 2012. She was elected in 2013, and she presided for 6 years as a family court judge. And then in 2018, she ran again for judge, and she was elected for a second 6-year term. And then she stepped down from her judgeship, announcing her intention to run for the Democratic nomination for Oakland County Prosecuting Attorney 2020 election. So with that being said, it states that she's part of the Democratic Party. So all I want to say to that is that I do definitely think that there is a narrative here and that there's an agenda with the way she's charged and how she's. Well, I just really feel that there's a narrative.
Stephen, I've got to recommend to you right here that Walmart sells some of the most amazing pickles. They're spicy maple bourbon pickles. we do pickles, not politics. We've got to cut it off there. I understand.
I like it.
I understand that. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Take it, bud.
If you hear the pickle ad, you'll know that we've wandered a little too far. So thank you very much. Let's see. Pam says you've heard some updates on court. Let's see. Hang on one second. Let me see if we've got some updates. Oh, this is Wales coming. Hang on. Nope, not. I think I just tried to call back Wales on the burner phone. I'm not sure how much that's going to charge me, but I don't even know what it's doing right now. Trying to relay it through some other center. I think I just broke the system. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing anything on. Where are you seeing the source on the judge being back? I'm not seeing it yet. Does anybody have that?
Call from
Summer Golden.
To accept, press 1.
Hey, Summer, this is Scott. How are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I got in. It's like my 101st time. I guess that's the winner.
You are the winner. Tell her what she's won. I'm just kidding.
How are you?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind?
Well, I first want to tell you thank you so much for your show. It is amazing. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thank you.
I want to start with just talking about the victims because I don't want them to get lost in this. And the families and their friends and the whole community are in my prayers. It's such a tragic situation.
This is the very, very first trial that I've been watching, which I'm a trial junkie, so I've watched a lot, that I am thankful I'm not on the jury. This is hard. This is a very different situation than than I'm used to. Usually I'm easy. I'm like, after I watch all the evidence, I'm very guilty, you couldn't sway me different, or not guilty, you couldn't sway me different. And in this case, it's just so difficult. I do not know that the prosecution proved that the mother saw the journals, which is kind of a little troubling to me. But anyway, I used to be a school teacher, and now I sub at my girls' school. I will say that I do have I'm sorry, my dog is wanting to talk to you too. I will say that I am very troubled to hear if it's true that the school has immunity to this, because
criminal immunity.
Okay, so not civil.
No,
okay,
right.
Okay.
There's still
so
a huge civil
that
liability.
makes me feel better. Okay.
The civil suits normally follow after the criminal suits.
Yeah, because this wasn't just a ball dropped by one person, right? I love to teach, but I'm a stay-home mom. And so I sub at my girls' school just to be involved and help and get to go in the classroom and do what I love to do without all of the politics and mess that comes with it. And I just want to share a quick story. There's a student that I subbed for often. He did not have a good home life. He lived with his uncles. His mom lived somewhere else. I don't know where dad was. He was, his parents, his uncles were what we learned to be gang members.
Okay.
And so he didn't have a good start. It's not his fault. He just didn't. But he was a major behavior problem. And because I'm a teacher and I'm trained in behavior and all of those things, I was the only substitute who could sub for his class. And this is third grade, and he's a lot bigger than these other kids, okay? He drew a picture, a very detailed picture of him with a knife stabbing other students. The same day, like around the same time this happens, he punches another student in the face, like a little kid. So I rush him to the office.
We're going to have to go quickly. We've got there might be another juror question.
The principal literally told me that there was nothing she could do.
Man.
And so there has got to be some accountability with these schools. I don't know where the ball is, but there's got to be accountability somewhere. It's very unfortunate. And I do want to throw in, I'm in Texas. We have guns too, but they are locked in a safe that my daughters cannot touch. I even have a gun safe in my car. So like that whole situation that the gun wasn't in a safe is crazy to me. But
Summer.
Anyway, well, if there's a juror question, I'm going to let you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you for taking my call.
I'm just seeing some motion in the court. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Oh, we'll perfect. Thank you.
Bye. Okay, let's turn it off here for a bit. We've got some motion in the court. I'm hearing rumors that there might be. I've not seen a confirmation yet, but people are saying there could be not a verdict, but a juror question. This would be question number 3 if it's true. If you're hearing that, where are you finding that? I'm just. I can see the motion in the court. Let's see. This hour of deliberation is brought to you by Spicy Maple Bourbon Pickles, the official pickle of the Recovery Addict channel. There you go. And there's a link. Matthew Harris, thank you very much. I love the link. Spicy Maple Bourbon Pickles, not a sponsor. Chat has a sixth sense. I think what's happening is people are watching for motion in the court. And generally when you see people coming in, they anticipate that there's a question. but I haven't seen. Let's see. I haven't seen anything else. Does anybody have anything at all? This guy's called a ton. Let's see who this is. Hang on.
Call from
Donald King.
Donald King, this is Scott. How are you doing?
Hi, Scott. Yeah, I'm the corrections officer that called you last week, if you don't remember me.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm disagree with a lot of the chat, and I do not think Ethan Crumbley was mentally ill. I think he was a budding psychopath and had personality disorders, which is different than a mental illness. In his Miller hearing, he stated he was a bad person and that he lied and was untrustworthy and nobody else knew what he was going to do. And I think he lied and manipulated his parents because he knew they were unattentive and manipulated them into getting a gun. He didn't plan this all out and carried it out to a T. And even down to surrendering to the police. That's not something a mental person does. I worked with mentally ill people in prison and they don't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
So, I mean, granted, I don't think the Crumbleys were great parents, but I don't see how you can put this on them. I think he was the major problem, and I think he was going to do this sometime or other down the road.
Donald, thank you very much. I've got to say, if this jury does vote to convict, I would love to hear what bit of evidence made it for them, like from each juror. And generally, we never hear these things. But what was the one thing for them that they couldn't get over?
Right.
Because
also,
I bet every single one of them is would make you go, really? That was it? That's what put you over the top.
Right. And I think it was a mistake for the judge not to allow Ethan Crumbley to come testify, because if he would have come in and testified and said what he said at his Miller hearing, I mean, that would pretty much be a slam dunk for the defense.
Yeah, he said he wouldn't testify through his lawyer. He was going to plead the fifth because he's trying to get his sentence better. So
okay, I didn't know that, but
yeah, that definitely, we were expecting him to come and testify for sure, but that would have definitely helped in this case had he said the same thing.
I don't believe he is mentally ill like a lot of people think he is. I do think he has probably a personality disorder, but that's not mental illness.
Yeah. Donald King, thank you very much. Appreciate the call.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Mandy Strong says, what was the second question? I may have fallen asleep. Okay, I did fall asleep. The second question had to do with
call from
now I have to
Amy. To accept, press
hang
1.
on
to
one
send
second.
a voicemail, press 2.
Amy, I just had a brain cramp, and I'm trying to remember what the second question was about that the jury asked. Can you help refresh my recollection? Amy, you there?
I'm here. You know what? I can't remember what the second question was either.
It was a really important
It's
one.
been a really long day.
Let's see. There was a second question. Yeah.
There was a second question, but I don't. Let's see. The second question. I don't remember.
Where chat's going to help us out. Are we allowed to draw inference from the absence of evidence put on by the
point of
prosecution?
view.
Okay, Amy, go ahead.
Oh,
what's that?
That's what it was. I have a different point of view. I'm Gen X, right? So when I was a kid growing up, on Saturdays, for instance, my parents would send me out of the house and say, "Don't come home until the streetlights come on, but then your ass better be in that bed."
Okay.
Right? They used to run commercials at 10 o'clock at night for our parents that said, "Do you know where your kids are?" Right?
That was the reminder
that
that like, oh, they better come home now.
Oh, wait a minute, I have kids. I forgot all about it. So, forward, that was the 70s, forward fast now to 2024. And we are trying to hold parents criminally responsible for their children's actions. When back in my day as a kid, my mom didn't even know where I was. She didn't ask me where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. She certainly wasn't looking through my room. However, it did have to be cleaned. But it seems like we've lost something. I remember going to the grocery store, and if I got out of hand, my mom would swat me, The cashier would swat me. The lady in line behind me would swat me. Nowadays, you can't even give somebody a sideways glance if their kid's getting out of hand. I mean, it feels like this is almost a generational issue nowadays. I don't know. I could be wrong. Just my thought.
All right. Wonderful. Yeah, thankfully for me, I grew up in a time period where the teachers could no longer use the ruler on your hand. But I just barely missed it. You know, it wasn't that long before.
Well, they used to give us swats. It was never a matter of if you're going to get swats. It was how many swats are you going to get? And I grew up fine. Yeah. But it's just, I don't know. It seems, this whole thing just seems really weird. It's very, very difficult to pick one way or the other. I don't know if I want to see guilt or if I want to see not guilty. Yeah. You know, it's one of the first trials I've ever watched with you that I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel.
I'll tell you this. I do want parents everywhere that own firearms to be more responsible with them. I want that.
Oh, absolutely.
If that was something I could choose, I would choose that. But I don't want parents everywhere to be charged with things that their kids do, where I'm not convinced that they knew they were going to do it and could have stopped it. Can I have my cake and eat it too? So.
Right. No, I'm with you 100% there. I have no issue with guns. We keep ours locked up. Our kids are all grown and gone. When the grandkids come over and say we've been to the shooting range and we left them out because we're cleaning them on the dining room table.
I'm so sorry, Amy. Amy, I was trying to stop the beep beep and I just hung up on you. I am so sorry. I tell you, I'm not a professional when it comes to answering the phone. Amy, thank you very much for your call. I apologize. Please forgive me. I was stopping the busy signal, Bella. I was stopping the busy signal, but it hung up. The busy signal hung up right before I pushed the button, and so I hung up on Amy. Oh my goodness. Treat Dispenser says, RA is on a roll. Who's keeping a counter of hung up calls? Just the ones that I hung up when they're actually connected first, because I hang up on everybody else who calls in when I'm on the phone with someone else, because that's the only way I can make it quiet. And if you guys find a phone system out there that works better, I think at this point I'm ready to invest in a phone system that won't have the beep beep. Or is there some way to turn off call waiting on Google Voice? That would be, actually, that's worth looking really quickly. Let me hold tight, please. This might save us all a huge headache. I don't know. I'll find it here. Somebody help me research this.
Bad juju.
Bad juju. You're taking a risk. I've been hanging up on people today. What's up? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind?
The only thing on my mind is, now that we've started getting into the territory of things that are clinical or not clinical, as someone with a clinical background, I wanted to clarify a few things.
Yes, please do.
Psychosis is a symptom. It's not really one thing in and of itself. It is a symptom of some other mental health condition. Personality disorders are mental health conditions. They are mental illnesses. Okay. And I just wanted to throw that out there since we had some input. As someone who has worked clinically as a social worker in schools, I've worked clinically in ERs dealing with victims, and it's just frustrating sometimes because there is a need, I think, for people to understand the difference. And I think we minimize issues when we try to state that something's not a mental illness or it's something else. And it also clouds our laws surrounding sanity and insanity and mental illness. So that's all. I just wanted to
you made it very quick. Thank you very much for pointing that out. That is a mental illness. Thank you very much for the clarification.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Call from
Terry from Oklahoma.
Terry from Oklahoma, how are you doing?
Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great. It would be better if I could figure out my phone, but...
Well, we forgive you because you're very popular.
Sorry. What's on your mind today?
Well, okay, just keep in mind that I am a public school child and education is my family business. I have many family members that are teachers, I have counselors, and my dad was my principal my whole life. My brother was a principal for 35 plus years. But what I really wanted to say about all of this, in the last part of my brother's 30 plus year term of being a principal, his school board voted to arm him and 3 other school officials that were in different buildings of the school system.
Okay.
And so they went to security officer school. They had to go through all this training. And of course, my dad was still alive then. He was a retired school principal. We had many discussions about this, you know, the rights of this, the do's and the don'ts. And my brother said, well, the thing about it is for him, it's not just the children that he is it's not just the kids that are coming in with guns. It's parents. It's kids from other schools. It's, you know, it's not just children coming into schools causing problems, I guess is his point. And he said he had a whole school system to protect, and he would rather do it armed than throw a stapler at somebody, you know? So I know it's a very controversial thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole new way of looking at it, but you know, I just wanted to throw it out there.
Yeah, that is a hot topic. I know in the state I lived in before, the state voted to allow teachers to carry a concealed weapon if they were licensed to do so, and that became a big issue, but and you know what? But there wasn't a single parent in his school system that went against it, which I was so shocked. I thought, oh man, this is going to get the community up in arms. And oh no, they were backing them big time. And that kind of told me of where, you know, we had enough school shootings in our past. They at least wanted somebody in the school system to be able to defend the school. Yeah. And, you know, these are systems that they're not big enough for resource officers, you know. Yeah. The idea is a school is a soft target if there's no firearms there. That's the idea. And if they have somebody there that has the ability to bring resistance, it stops it, because there are plenty of stats that say that when there is an active shooter, generally the first time they meet resistance, it generally ends armed resistance that generally ends the competition.
Exactly. And my daughter she's in a Texas school system, but doesn't matter. She has bear spray in her closet.
Oh my goodness.
And I know,
that stuff does not mess around. That stuff. So.
Yeah, I know. I was like, can you test it to make sure it, you know, travels? And she was like, huh? I'm like, maybe you better not have bear spray if the answer is huh, you know? At least go outside and spray it, you know? Oh. Gosh. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say is it was this big thing about arming there were 4 people in that school that were armed. And, you know, I felt both ways. We discussed it. My gosh, my father he was all over. He was like, well, I just can't believe they let you bring a gun in the school, you know? So, you know, even in our own household, we were like, do you know you may have to shoot one of your own students? And he'd been there so long.
Yeah.
He'd been there so long that literally he taught kids. He was a principal of kids that now their kids were coming through school. So he would call them up and say, hey,
a generational.
Hey, Junior, your child is acting like a jerkwad, you know, come and get your kid, Junior. And Junior would be like, be right there, Mr. LeBeth, you know.
First of all,
anyway,
I
that's
think,
kind of, you know.
There are teachers out there, and in all this, we forget the teachers. Teachers do an amazing job, and I realize we're homeschooling, but that's just our choice. I have met some amazing public school teachers. I've had some amazing public school teachers, and generally the teachers are not there for the money. Maybe your state does it differently. Everywhere I've been, the teachers are really not there for the money. They're doing it because they love to educate and they love working with kids. For the most part, there's bad apples everywhere, but a big shout out to teachers and those that work day in and day
that's
out.
Kind of the way I feel about it. Bottom line, and I'm, you know, with this trial, I could go on, but I just wanted to bring up my brother carrying a gun as a principal in school, and try not to, you know, people don't come down on me in the chat, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Amy. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Elizabeth says, jurors, where's the evidence showing Jennifer knowingly allowed him to access the pew-pew? Answer, none presented. Verdict, not guilty. Okay, so I have to do the math again because we're getting up to big numbers. For those that are wondering, 327 divided by 60 is equal to 5.5 hours, basically.
Call from
Rose.
Is this Rose?
Hi, it is.
Hey, Rose, this is Scott. How are you doing?
Hi, doing well, thanks. Thanks for answering.
Yep. What's on your mind?
Hey, so I'm a licensed counselor, and I've specialized with kids my whole career. And while I don't want to overstate my training, it's not as though I have like a forensic background for assessing teens. I would not say that this kid, if he were to come into my office, would strike me as someone particularly, not as an immediate threat, right? I would not be seeking a Baker Act with this kiddo.
Right.
I would obviously be asking more questions. And if he was willing to elaborate on his internal dialogue and I learned more concerning things, then obviously I would need to take action. But usually you'll see, to have more risk factors, we're going to look for a history within their earlier childhood, right? Some markers of antisocial behavior, difficulty assimilating to any sort of peer landscape, not just for you, Mr. Popularity, but did you have at least one or two connected friendships? Yeah. I do think I would be encouraging these parents to be connected and to be vigilant, and trying to discuss with them some opportunities to do that, because I do think that there was some lack there, but they are not at all the most detached or disconnected parents that I've personally worked with.
Yeah.
So.
Well said. But great advice to all the other parents who still have a chance, because statistically of the group that's here, none of us will have this happen with one of our kids. As good or bad as parents we are, statistically, it's not us, right? But we can't go
Very
around
rare,
saying, "Oh, it won't be me."
Absolutely.
I don't think that day is here anymore. We can't just say it won't happen to me. We do have to ask questions. We do have to take some responsibility.
Right. Questions, connectivity, understanding your child's attachment style. If you have listeners who don't have any background knowledge on attachment style, that's just a fun, quick Google you can do to kind of understand yourself and your partner and your own children, kind of what they do when they're experiencing fear of rejection, so that you can see when they're in distress. You can understand, okay, are they withdrawing because they're an introvert, or are they withdrawing because they're experiencing some marked distress, right?
That sort of test shows you that a lot of times kids are showing signs, but they're very subtle, and you have to learn how to read them. But once you learn how to read the signs, it's just like sign language. I mean, when I know I have one child, when things aren't going well in their life, they act a very certain way, and it's not like they correlate. It's like, oh well, that's A equals B, but there's a pattern, and I can see here's this. Hey, how are you doing here? You need some food? Is your sugar off? Type thing. I can
right.
see the connection. So that education is very very well. That's good advice. That's what I want to say.
And it's noticing trend lines, right? It's not a couple of anomalous behaviors, which I might argue is what they were seeing here. But it's noticing trend lines and keeping in mind that a lot of parents wait a long time. They wait until there's a lot of evidence before they call someone like my office. I own a group practice, and I can't hire fast enough. At one point, there was like a 9 to 12 month wait for me because I specialize with children, and there are very few services like that in my community. And so I would also say to parents, like, understand attachment, understand your own kid's personality, but also as soon as you see a trend line that's angling down, go ahead and make that call, because you might have to wait on a list. Yeah. And if you don't, great. You can get a professional to say, does my kid need therapy right now? Right? Yeah. So I would say make that call. If you're on the fence, just make it.
Yeah.
And
The worst
that
thing
brings
that
me
can
to
happen
just
is
my
you could get
final
some
thought.
information. Yeah. Help out.
Right. And I would just say, just talking about being on the fence, you know, we're dealing with a beyond a reasonable doubt standard. So if you're on the fence at all, your vote, according to the law, would have to be not guilty. And I think all the division that we see in this case is definitely a reflection of, like, as EDB would say, we're talking about legality, not morality, when we're looking at trials. So
I love
anyway, I
love that
appreciate
you
your
quote
time.
Emily.
Thank
you so much. Appreciate the call. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye. Okay, let's do this. We've got a couple things I want to do really quickly. First of all, Karina says, as a teacher outside the U.S., I'm obligated to report red flags to management, which are forwarded to parents. Most are ignored by both. Yet I know I'd be their scapegoat if something like this happened. Karina, thank you for that. We have a couple updates. There have been 2 questions so far, and those 2 questions, the first one had to do with how if the jury instructions, 2 jury instructions had to be, you had to find one and then the other, or if you could go either route. Basically, is it easier to get to, are there 2 paths to involuntary manslaughter, or do we have to go from one to the other, and it makes a more difficult path to get through both avenues? And the answer is yes, there's 2 paths. That was very bad for the defense. The second question had to do with, can the jury infer by the fact that the prosecution did not call certain witnesses, that they did not call, for instance, the shooter to testify about how he got the gun? Can we make an inference from that? The answer to that is no. It's a very good question for the defense, but the answer is no. And the way the judge chose to word the answer, they went entirely with the state's option, which they've done twice now. They have not found any middle ground, and basically said, no, just consider the evidence that as it's been received. Trying to connect. It's not working. Sorry about that. So 2 questions. The jury has been deliberating for 5.5 hours and rapidly approaching the early hours of the afternoon here. I think we're in there solidly. What is it? It's already 3:30. Holy cow. Jay Sunke says, I think it was a mistake waiting until today to deliberate. The judge did not want them to deliberate over the weekend. She was adamant about that. So we had closing arguments Friday and then started deliberations this morning.
Call from
Becky from Kansas.
Hello, Becky. This is Scott. How are you doing?
Good. And I hear you're doing good too, and all the hundreds of calls you're getting.
Well, I'm hanging up on a lot of people on accident, but other than that, I'm doing well. What are your
I
thoughts
thought you were
today?
going to say, I'm hanging up on you right now.
No. I'll give you a little more warning.
Okay. My thoughts are that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I heard you touch on it a little bit earlier, was the way that Mrs. Crumbley looked. You think it's strategy, the way they dressed her in court?
Yes, and I go back to the old black and white days in the movies with the westerns. You could always tell the bad guy because he was wearing a black hat, and the white guy had a white hat. It's white is pure, white is light, white is good. And so I think very much that they want to make her look innocent, pure, good, wholesome as much as they can. So
what I think, sitting next to somebody that's wearing hundreds of dollars in clothes, she looked frumpy. And to me, that gave me a little bit more empathy for her.
Okay.
So I wondered if that was some sort of strategy.
It could be. If we ever get the chance to ask the questions, I'd like to know. I'll ask about the clothes.
I would too.
That'd be interesting.
I know that's a strange thing, but
no, I think everything that happens in the
court
court is for a reason. That sometimes it's accidental, but every aspect of court is theater, and from when we walk in to when we walk out, there's a possibility of it being intentional, the way you do anything. So
great point. The other point I wanted to make was he wrote in his journal that someone was going to die. He didn't say students. So I think if the parents would have been told to take him home, I think he'd have opened fire on the way out the door or possibly at home.
Could have been them.
I think that his mind was made up.
I don't know. That's one of those questions we won't ever know the answers to, I think, unfortunately. But
yeah. I just feel bad his mom's suffering because of it. I find her not guilty in my mind. That's just where I stand. I have guns in my house. They're locked. I just feel like she's not guilty. I think she should be held responsible for what he did behind her back.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Becky. I appreciate that. I think this puts Kansas on the map. Our first call from Kansas that I know of today.
Woo!
So thank you for representing.
I called you once before. I told you that we were going to have a hung jury in the treehouse case.
And you nailed it. So maybe there's something in the water there. You can read the future. You can see the future.
Oh,
so.
I hope it's not.
All right.
I hope. Okay.
Becky, thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
All right. I don't think we're getting a verdict today, says Megan. You guys are doing better with the phone. I'm not getting as many calls at the same time. It says call failed. I didn't touch anything that time, just for the record. It wasn't me. Okay. See, maybe theater to us, but the person in the defendant chair is not quite the same. Vince, you're right. Bunty Baggins says, I think if she did that to her hair, may come across that she was into herself and self-centered, so being disheveled, it seems like she doesn't care about her appearance. Yeah, we're not going to get too much in the appearance thing. I don't know, and honestly, it's so much speculation that we're just going to steer clear of that. So I apologize for getting too much in that. Let's see. Maybe the jury can't come to an agreement, and the others are trying to convince. Tiny Rue is, I do believe that if people went into this jury deliberation room with strong opinions either way, that they will be very hard pressed to change them. I'm trying to connect, and it says connecting, but then it says call failed. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Maybe I actually need to pay for a burner phone and not use the free one. Okay, let's see. If she's guilty, James is certainly going to be found guilty. Heather Collins, this is an interesting point. And Matthew Harris, one of our great legal minds in chat here as well, one of our great mods, was saying an interesting take on this from the other angle, saying that if James was tried first, no matter what the outcome, Jennifer would be found not guilty. And now Heather's saying that if she is guilty, James is certainly going to be guilty. What do you guys think of that idea? Do you find that true?
Call from
Anne.
Hello, Anne. This is Recovery Addict. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Scott. Thank you for asking. And you?
I am just fabulous.
There you go. I have two things that concern me. One is I'm an only child, and I can understand how they missed the signs of him being disturbed because they had nothing to compare it to. They didn't have, and I think you touched on it before, they didn't have another child that was acting rationally. And in their minds, maybe they thought it was all the COVID, the dog dying, his best friend moving away, his grandfather passing away. Maybe they just thought that was a normal reaction. And the second thing is we don't know anything about how Mrs. Crumbley was brought up, what her parents were like. So she may be just following the way she was parented at home.
Beautiful Messy Ball points out that he did have a stepbrother that was there sometimes. Was the stepbrother on the dad's side, or was I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one that was, but I didn't hear much about him during court. So he had two stepchildren, says Vicky. Yeah, we didn't hear much about them at all.
Did they live with them though?
I don't think so. Yes, on the dad's side. The husband had another son who lived with them.
It's possible. that could have happened. And if you believe it's possible, then that's kind of a reasonable doubt why they missed the signs, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the signs that were most troubling came very quickly at the end. I don't think they had a long time to see signs. I think, if anything, over the long period of time, there was, what did happen was just, it was here, there, it was scattered. It was very little. So I don't think they had a long time to think, hey, there's a problem developing here.
That's true too. Well, thank you for talking to me.
Not a problem, man. Thanks for the call.
You betcha.
Well,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see. No movement in the courtroom. It's very quiet. Oh, and it says you're not just cheating on your spouse. I can't imagine that if the kids knew what's going on, and kids figure things out. I would say kids figure things out. They can sense when things are wrong. But if the kids thought that there was something up, that there was something wrong, and that would definitely introduce some definite pressures on them.
Call from
Sheila.
Sheila, how are you doing today? This is Scott.
Good. It's an interesting situation at my home because I am pretty anti-gun. I've never had one before, and then I went and married a lifetime NRA member.
Did you marry him before you knew or after? This is the question.
I knew from the beginning, but he was a good guy anyway. But when all of these school shootings started happening, I would get very upset. And his line, people don't kill people. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. And we'd have some discussions. Well, I was telling him about this case, and immediately he said the parents need to be held responsible. And I was rather stunned, honestly. And because I thought I would be the one, because I was a little more on the fence. And his point of view is, parents have become careless about gun safety. When he was young and his father was an NRA member, and at that point the NRA, he says, was all about safety, all about training and safety, not at all political. And he said that's what it needs to be distilled down to, and they're not teaching these kids, they're not keeping these kids safe. And it's I've gone back and forth on this a little bit. I sort of feel like she should be held responsible. Perhaps I think they've overcharged her, but I do think she was neglectful. But I do think ultimately a message needs to be sent to parents that they have to keep guns locked up, and they have to not let them have them unsupervised ever, because kids are impulsive. I was a teacher. They during adolescence, their brains don't function even as well as they did before when they were younger in terms of being able to stop impulses and or understand the long-term consequences of their behavior. And we have to protect them from themselves, and we have to protect everybody else from them. So I'm actually thinking that she should be found guilty of something. I wish that they had included lesser charges.
All right. I'm surprised they didn't charge for neglect. I mean, because it's almost a requirement to get there.
Right.
But I think
I agree.
I think you're right. The state wanted all or nothing, and if they did have a lesser included, or if they charged for her for neglect, child neglect as well, I think they wouldn't go for the conviction on the manslaughter. So
yeah, and you're right. Okay.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. We'll see you.
Sure.
Bye. See, I've been drinking. I've got my water, Robin. I'm doing good. Okay. I want to say thank you to Brenda, who has the 3 jars of spicy maple bourbon pickles. 3 months. 3 months. Thank you very much, Brenda. Appreciate that. Also, a 3-month mark for Valerie. Says, came here during the Maya trial.
Jessica.
She says, hung around ever since. Thanks to all the generous gifted memberships. Love the community here and all you do, RA. Thank you, Valerie. We have Jessica on the phone right now. Jessica, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from beautiful Washington State.
All right. North of the rain showers, right?
Yeah, well, right at the Canadian border.
Oh wow.
So we're on the U.S. side of the Canadian border. On the coast, it's beautiful.
That's gorgeous.
So I'm kind of torn in a lot of ways, like a lot of women and parents are with the gun ownership idea, the tragedy that happened at the school. But I want to take a second just to maybe throw out a metaphor for just a moment for people's consideration. If you have to make a cake, and just go on the trip with me, we'll get to the end, I promise, and I'll be quick.
Has to be quick trips.
I've
rehearsed
it, so I've got it down. I've got it down pat.
Thank you.
If you're in a neighborhood and you know that you have to bake a cake for the king, right? But you're not communicating. I've got eggs. Well, I don't have eggs, but I've got flour. You get the point, right?
Right.
If people aren't communicating, the end of the mission is going to fail. And whatever that means is if your teacher is noticing doodles on a worksheet and doesn't think anything of it, that's the first fail. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that it's the teacher's fault, but what I'm saying is these little tiny things, these little grains of sand, they add up to more and to more. And I would like to ask, how is it that there wasn't something beforehand? Now, I have a 25-year-old, and he's an only child, and I'm a helicopter parent. Mm-hmm. And I'm also former law enforcement, and we have guns here. My son absolutely knows the rules of our house. Absolutely. I would swear you could not tell me my son would go shoot up a school, period. However, there are some challenges when it comes to anxiety and withdrawal and friends and online influences. So all I'm saying is I think that this particular scenario, although it is tragic in its events, I do not feel that she's guilty of manslaughter. However, I do feel that she has to have some kind of consequence, because even though it wasn't her job, unquote, to take care of the weapon, that was kind of something her husband did. Being a parent, you still have to be a partner. You can't just pretend like it's not in your home. That just, it's just too much of a danger to not be something you know about. Like if you knew a sex offender lived next to you, are you going to let your kid go trick or treat?
No, you take
just because you don't want to deal with it. But you know what I mean. So this is a frustrating case because I do think it's a slippery slope. I do think it's political myself, but that's just me. I'm eating my pickle right now. But I'm just saying, I think that unfortunately when these tragedies happen, and they do happen all too often, as we've seen, that oftentimes the emotion carries the next legislation to come into law. And I hope that people would take a second and look at all the other intricacies involved. Could there be poverty? Could there be, other stuff going on? We can't just take a brush stroke and say, oh yeah, if it's this, oh yeah, if it's that. That's why profilers don't always get it right. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, Jessica,
it's so nice to talk to you.
Jessica, thank you very much. I need to get up to the Pacific Northwest. It is beautiful.
Sure.
I love the coastline.
You
up
do.
There.
Yeah.
All we need is somebody to commit a murder up there, and then we can come out for court. So if you could just never mind. I'm not going to.
I can't facilitate that, but if you ever want somebody to interview, I did happen to work with the lead investigator of the Bianchi murders, one half of the Hillside Strangler, when he came up here and murdered 2 girls.
Wow.
So, and I've seen all the crime scene photos. Yeah. So if you ever want to just a real quick interview, I'd love to talk to you about it. But anyway.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jessica. Thanks for the call.
Of course.
We'll see you.
Take care. Thanks. Thanks, Chad. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. We have, let's see. A lot of bumping into the camera. Kim, that's a good sign. We actually do look for the bumping in. That means there's traffic in the courtroom. And generally, traffic in the courtroom means something might be happening. So we're holding out. The more bumps, the better. It's a cryptic way of discovering what's happening, but that helps a little bit. Scarcena says, keep checking in while working. We've still just had those 2 jury questions. We're still waiting. Deliberation-wise, we're coming up on 6 hours. We're 7.5 minutes away from 6 hours. And nothing
Call
since
from
that second question.
AWOL.
AWOL Podcast. This is Scott. How are you doing?
How you doing, Scott?
Doing great.
Quick question. I was in and out. I mean, I was watching the trial since the beginning, but since I dropped trucks, I might have missed this part. Is there any evidence that the state put on that shown where the gun was?
No, the only thing they put on was they showed where the case was
in the photo.
In the photo, and they have an officer testimony, I believe. I don't think we heard from the officer who actually found it, but there was one of the lead officers talked about where it was, and it was on the bed. It had already been found there. I think it was like under the bed was the testimony. The box.
That's what I'm saying. I'm so confused with that. I'm wondering if this jury's back there going, what was it? Maybe that's why they're taking this long. Maybe they're going through the whole testimony just to see if that was proven.
I don't know. The one thing when you talk about going through testimony, this judge has told the jury that if they want to hear more testimony from a juror or from a witness, they can. They'll play it back for them. So I guess they'll play the recording back, but they can't just listen to part. They have to listen to the entire thing. And some of those witnesses went for hours. so they're not. It doesn't look like they're taking that option. But it is.
And one more quick question for you. Remember that news article that came out with not technically telling who the jury was, but more information that should have been out there? Do you think that is another reason why it's taking so long? Because some of them might want to go not guilty, but they're like, I am not suffering the wrath of a not guilty, because if they find out who I am and I come back with a not guilty, my life is over. I have to move. You know what I mean? I wonder if that's a part.
Here's what I think. This community, with that article, knows who the jurors are.
Oh, that's not good.
That's what I think. So yeah, that's got to be a factor when the public sentiment is so clear and is so much in opposition to Jennifer Crumbley. I think they've got to be feeling that pressure.
Well, we'll find out eventually, one way or another.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. Thank you.
AWOL.
Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Zimmy from the bus stop says, totally agree, pressured jury. Did anyone know where I can find the article? I can't link it in chat, but if somebody can say the newspaper or something, it should be an easy find.
Call from
K. Metz.
I heard Jay Mitch. Who's on the phone?
K. Metz.
Kimmich?
Oh.
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time hearing your name, that's all.
K. Metz.
K-Mitch.
K. Yes.
All right. How are you doing? What's on your mind? Sorry, I'm struggling to hear your name. That's all right.
I'm doing okay. I'm going to make it short, but in the past, I have talked to you about. I have a family member in Homeland Security. Mm-hmm. Remember?
Yes.
And first, let me go to the first part. My wife passed away at 42, and I was a very lenient parent at the time. I had a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. But once I was alone, I became so hypervigilant. And my son one day, I mean, he played video games all the time. It concerned me a little bit, but I was like, okay with it. One day he came home from school and said that he wanted to find the person that he hated the most and do something to them. Just do something. I didn't think he wanted to kill him. I think he wanted to just vent because this was 2 weeks after his mom passed away, which he found, by the way. He found
her. Oh, my goodness.
It was brutal. And I immediately, the second he told me, got on the phone. I had a friend of mine who was a counselor at another school district, called her, and I took him immediately. So I'm on the opposite end. I was just so hyper vigilant. It turned out to be nothing. He just was, going through that phase, and nothing ever happened. And he's 22 now. He's the greatest kid you could ever ask for. Yeah. That's one thing. But the main reason I wanted to call was my family members. I told you he's law enforcement his whole career, and he was a prosecutor. He said if there was 12 jurors, lawyers or prosecutors on that jury, they'd have been back in 15 minutes with a guilty verdict. for what that it says. So I guess there's some. I asked him, he said the way the law reads, if they read it and follow it to what the law says, she's guilty. He doesn't think she's guilty. He thinks it would set a horrible precedent. We went into this whole conversation about, what's going to happen for the next 20 years and the rest in the country and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I thought that was
a little insightful. Yeah. Great comments, sir.
Yep. Okay. I'll let you all go.
Thanks. Good talking to you. We'll see you. Bye.
You too.
I love the response. Love the instant response when there was a sign, trouble signs. Would the conversation be the same if EC went home and unalived his parents? Would we be blaming his parents then? Typically, we don't charge dead people. I'll just say normally. Normally, we don't. I'm sure there's going to be some case law out there where somebody's tried, but let's see. Why is it? I'm trying, guys. I really am trying. Try not to hang up on anyone else. No charges posthumously. Right. Rudy says, either verdict will surprise me. You're firmly in the hung verdict or hung jury category. They used to charge people in the medieval era. Yes, era. They used to, I think they used to like dig them up and punish them as well. Do you remember that? Long time ago. Lisa L., welcome to the gallery. Thank you very much. Brand new member. Let's see, Virginia, how long has it been? Hate your timer. Well, in 1 minute, it will be 6 hours, Virginia. I apologize. I want a new timer, too. If you can find one that works well with an iPad, let me know. I like to think that the calls that are not connecting are not my fault. Is that all right? That's such an Elaine quote. I'm trying. I am trying. Dodie Sweeney says, with all these school shootings, I wonder why we're not making the doors of the classroom doors out of steel and without windows and with the lock that comes into the door. Reinforced doors, like bulletproof doors. That only stops part of the problem. I mean, there's still hallways full of kids. I don't think that you can ever fully make it secure. Okay. I'm answering the calls.
Call from.
It's Becky Bubbles.
Becky Bubbles, how are you doing?
Hello.
Becky. Hello, Becky. This is Scott. Are you there?
Hi, Scott. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Brilliant. Yeah, I just wanted to pop in. First of all, say hi. And personally, I think what this is going to come down to is what the jury's own opinions on gun ownership is. And what your responsibility as a gun owner is. I think that's what it's going to come down to, and I think that's what probably a lot of the arguments are in the court, in the jury room at the moment. I don't think the evidence is actually going to be the be-all and end-all of it. I do think their personal opinions on gun ownership is going to come into play here as well.
Yeah, that's. I was mentioning that if you already had a strong opinion on guns. And yes, opinion on this case, it might be very difficult to switch to the other side because it seems that gun ownership and I'm not sure why it's beeping like that. Becky, I'm gonna have to let you go. It's beeping really loud in my ears, probably yours too. I think that the two are tied in this case for some reason. Melissa Ann says, a Yellow courthouse should be 6 months. Yes, the 5 months you just said stored it up from before. So you've got you might have another message stored up there as well. Baby Gator says, when are we going to break for lunch? Thank you, Baby Gator. Appreciate that. Also, Lisa L., welcome to the gallery. We've got a super chat from Tracy Fagan says, I would have liked to hear from the one person that we didn't. Who was that? The son. The one who pleaded the fifth. What are the lesser charges? There are no lesser charges on this, Sinbad. It's all or nothing, is my understanding. Jury is allowed to bring their own personal experience into the jury room. Is that the low battery on the burner phone?
Call from.
Runts Rants.
To accept, press.
Hello, Runts Rants. This is Scott. How are you doing?
Pretty good, Scott. Enjoying the show, of course.
Wonderful. Thanks for calling.
No problem. Just want to make a couple of quick comments. I haven't watched the whole trial because I had to break away to work. You know, life interferes sometimes. But just a couple of thoughts, and I don't know if somebody else has already mentioned this. Obviously, Mom and Dad were not on the same page. Our mom wouldn't be off having an affair and stuff like that. But I think if they were looking at reasonable working for the benefit of their son, they would have had some serious talks outside of his presence about even purchasing another gun, much less having two in the house already. There would have been other options until they could have gotten him in for different treatments. A friend of theirs, maybe who is a gun owner, could have taken the guns and held on to them temporarily just to make sure the son didn't have access until they got a better handle on things. I know one other caller made a comment about the whole focus has been on Ethan going after other kids. But yes, he could have easily turned the gun when they least expected it onto them or onto anybody else. It didn't necessarily have to be at the school level.
Yeah, it's hindsight is really good. I'm just not convinced that the signs that were there. First of all, I don't think anybody had all the pieces, and I've done these projects with or activities with youth where you give each person a puzzle piece and they have to make a puzzle and they have to find the right group for the puzzle they have, and then it takes everyone participating or you can't complete the puzzle. Sometimes just missing one or two puzzle pieces, they can't figure out what the word is, or what the message is for the activity. And it would have been nice in this case if one group had all the information, and I think it should have been the parents. I think their responsibility is there more so than the school.
I agree.
But I'm not convinced because I don't think the state has proved to me what they knew. I mean, there are some warning signs that looking back I can see and say, yeah, that would be a warning sign, but I don't know what they knew at the time. And it's still just difficult for me to get to a conviction for that reason.
Well, I'm on the other side of the fence, okay?
Yeah.
I do hold parents responsible. I'm an old lady, and my kids are in their 30s, but they were not angels. We went through different times with them. My older son spent a week in the orange jumpsuit in the local jail, so I understand what it's like raising kids, and it's even worse now than it was when my boys were here. But, I think if the parents had any kind of a halfway decent relationship, even if they weren't madly in love with each other or whatever, I think they could have really come up with some other alternatives until they had a better handle on what was going on with their son. An ounce of prevention,
It's better than a pound of cure. So
yeah,
thank
exactly.
you. Thank you so much. Appreciate the comments. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Yep, we'll
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I appreciate Tracy Fagan's comments here. I would have put my toothbrush on the table. Said call to
Greg.
Hello, Greg. This is Scott. How are you doing?
Hey, first time caller again. This is going to be the magic number for the day. We need a counter for that.
Yes.
I'm a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, military trained, so profiling, behavior analysis, all that kind of good stuff, right?
Oh my goodness! So you don't do anything exciting
now imagine me. Imagine me if I have a young, empathic daughter. So I'm very thankful, and that's my only child. Mm-hmm. And just because of my personal choices, despite the fact that I live in Florida, I have no guns in my house or weapons, no pew-pews. Yeah. Got it. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
You're good.
Here's my thing. I'm educated. If I had a 15-year-old boy that showed me some sociopathic tendencies, I might try to get him emancipated as an adult if this case goes to trial and goes to a guilty verdict. What do you think about emancipating your youth to avoid a conviction?
Wow. Washing your hands of it, saying separate me from them. They're not
I'm a
my kid
psychiatric
anymore.
professional. I'm a psychiatric professional, and I'm recognizing some risk factors that bother me that nobody is going to legally address.
I don't know. Here's where I stand. I think when we sign up for
I'm a different reasonable person.
when we sign up for parenthood, we're signing a little bit a blank check, and we don't know what that check's going to be for. And sometimes it ends up being a IOU, and sometimes it's a you in the lottery, and usually ends up some sort of IOU or a mix between the two. I think that I believe we're in it for the long haul. We can't treat our kids like they're disposable.
No. But here's my thing. I got to teach my daughter from when she's able to talk. I'm teaching her to recognize sociopathic tendencies in other people and be able to profile people. So she's better at it now.
She's going to have a heck of a time dating. You know this.
Yes. In fact, I wouldn't doubt if she may become a non-heterosexual because it's my fault.
you broke
and
her.
I accept all these flaws and admit my own humanity multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Just like you, which I'm very proud of and I love about you.
Well,
thank you.
That is awesome. I love that you're able to look at these things and think about them and look down the road. And you know, even though if you're parenting very differently than maybe I parent, I think the effort is what matters. I mean, I don't think any of us can really control what our kids become and what they do. And
here's something.
Yeah.
Here, I got something for you. Any parent, I've seen dozens of sociopaths in my professional life. Okay, I'm a psychiatric that deals with military, including special ops, Rangers, EOD, you name it.
They are crazy
people that
bunch.
joined the military because they had tendencies that they wanted to use for benefit, depending on how your analysis is, versus
to satisfy their
society.
craving for certain experiences. Yeah.
All parents of those, a lot of times the parents were less intelligent than the sociopath, and the parents never knew the sociopathic tendencies because that's kind of what happens a lot of times. And again, I'm talking from a personal, professional standpoint, personal firsthand experience with well over 24 sociopaths.
I have to
emancipate your youth.
I have
right?
to ask: were any of the people you interviewed halo jumpers? Because those guys are in a world of their own.
I got at least a handful of those. In fact, I can think of 5 right off the top of my head.
Everyone.
And guarantee. Here's something else I did. Those halo jumps, halo jumpers. If you know any halo jumpers that do not have a diagnosis of TBI, tell them to go to the doctor and explain what halo jumping is, and then they'll be diagnosed with multiple subconcussive exposures and at higher risk for chronic traumatic encephalopathy, right?
Yeah, there's a lot in this call.
That's my job.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. We'll have to talk sometime off air or something. This is a fun one, so I appreciate it.
There's my screen name, GF and Wiz, because that's where we're at.
All right, sounds great. Thanks. I'll just call it Wiz for now. We'll see you. Bye.
Indeed.
Bye. Oh, man, what a character. Halo, by the way, is high altitude, low opening. They're people that jump out of airplanes and don't open up their chute till the very last moment. And they do it intentionally. So it's good. Matthew Harris is like, hey, I was airborne.
Call from
Christina.
Hello, Christina. How are you doing this afternoon? This is Scott.
Hey, Scott.
How are you doing?
Pretty good. Now, I went from finding that the parents, specifically Jennifer in this case, would be found guilty. I just thought she was guilty before the trial started, from what the media said about everything. You know, the journal entries, the text messages to the mother, the bird in the bathroom, things like that. But after watching the trial, my views have changed somewhat because they're trying to lump everything together as far as the journal entries, the text to the friends, and the text to the parents about the clothes flying off of
the bowls and the clothes flying off the shelves and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in honesty, I'm not sure. I don't really know if the parents knew about the journal entries or what he was texting his friend.
Well, when the journal entries were first brought out, I think one of the first questions the prosecutors asked was, now we have no evidence that the school ever saw any of these, right? There's no evidence to support that we saw any of this ahead of time. And they were like, no. Well, the same is true for the parents. We have no evidence that the parents knew anything about these journal entries. So it's hard to take that as evidence and be like, well, that really seals it for me. When if the parents didn't know, that's
right. And then also those texts that he was sending his mother about the clothes flying off in the bowls, those were months and months prior to the crime. If my daughter was to text me something like that, I would just assume she was joking.
Yeah.
Unless it was a constant thing, you know what I mean? If it was only like over a couple of days, I would think she's being silly.
Yeah, I do think the different pieces that put together the calls for help from their son are so spread out that if we just look at them and nothing else and don't look at every other interaction that happened for weeks or months between them, it's easy to say, yeah, look at all these pieces. Clearly,
right.
Is a child in distress. Just hoping for something, some sort of assurance from his parents or interaction or something. But in between, then we had the pictures at vacations, and we had all sorts of interactions that we would say, oh, this is the sort of thing a kid needs. Okay, he needs this time with his parents. He needs this activities, his friends over, the games together. I mean, they played board games around the kitchen table. I don't know how much better you can get as far as spending time with your kids than just spending time playing with them and something that they enjoy. But
right, and also the incident with the bird and taking it into the bathroom. He admitted that he did that in the journal, but nobody knew it was him beforehand. Now, if somebody knew he was doing that, say the school or his parents, I would believe that he, should be committed, to a inpatient stay, because that's just really disturbing.
It is. It's quite disturbing, but that information, although it was mentioned briefly outside the jury's presence, it did not come in as evidence during this trial. So
No, it didn't. I'm just saying in general, though. You know what I mean? Like, has the media had us thinking this, and this? I kind of lumped it all together. Like, the parents were aware of all of this stuff at first. So that's why my mind has changed. I can't really see. And I'm from New York, so if that tells you anything. So
is that supposed to answer all my questions right there? I'm from New York.
Right. All right. Well, thank you for the call.
Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it. Good talking to you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm getting vertigo looking at the crooked cameras at times like these. The cameraman adjusted there's what they call a ball adjustment, so the camera can pivot any direction, and they can loosen it and then center the camera so it's straight, and then tighten it. It holds that position, and it can pan back and forth holding that level. They adjusted it. If you watch, they adjusted it so that it's the whiteboard that is hanging on an angle off the wall behind the defendant is perfectly straight, which puts everything else crooked. And they still haven't noticed. Melissa Smith says, did EC have aunts, uncles, grandparents who could have helped him? Did anyone ever call CPS on the parents? It takes a village. We all know we can do better. We know at least there was some extended family involved in some way, but I don't know how much they knew, or if they knew anything, or how close they were. Do we know if the court has put an end time on today's deliberations, or can they go as long as they want? The court has been closing at 5 o'clock up till this point, and the judge has been very mindful of the deputies. The deputies have said that they can run longer if needed, but I think the judge is pretty happy with that 5 o'clock cutoff. So I think we're still on pace for a 5 o'clock cutoff here. Okay. Great question.
Call from
Grass Folks.
Grass Folks, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks, Scott. How are you?
Doing great. What's on your mind today?
I was wondering, how much responsibility can each parent take for the storage of the pew-pews?
My opinion?
Mm-hmm.
I think they each can take 100%.
Okay.
That I don't think you can you can pass it off and blame the other person. Otherwise, one parent would say, "It wasn't mine. It was James' job." And James would say, "Well, that was all Jennifer. That was her job. We had a little chore list, and hers was lock up the guns. It was not my fault." I think that both of them are adults; they're shared, but the responsibility, if they knew about them, would be 100% for both. They had a juvenile in the home. They're responsible to maintain their guns.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think also the chat about the jury instructions, because they seem quite different from some of the thoughts that we'd been considering in chat, about which way to consider it and all of the different aspects of it. I wonder whether or not defense, because the two sides, they agree that the jury instructions, I wonder if the defense got enough objections in there for appeal to support their case if it goes the other way for them. I've got a different opinion from what I think. I feel it should be not guilty. I'm not sure what the jury's going to do.
Yeah, even though I say 100%, like I did earlier, I still believe the state hasn't proved to me that it wasn't secured. I mean, all the components to secure it were there. I don't know if he was meticulous and just locked the bag up and put it back in and left it laying there and then walked out with it. I doubt it. It doesn't seem highly likely that he would have opened it and then put the gun away back, the lock back in the bag that it came in. But I just hasn't been proven to me.
That's true. They also haven't. I mean, there's some of the things which are like circumstantial. So was the behaviors that have been proven about the safe, and the fact that it didn't exactly have, it didn't really have a code on it, and how they treated other things that we do have evidence for. Does that indicate that we a stronger and better approach to the way that they were managing those, or whether or not it was a little bit more lackadaisy, and you can make some inferences from that?
I think the jury probably can make some inferences from it. I mean, most people lock up their phone more securely than they locked up those guns in the safe.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you have a code? I mean, don't raise your hands, but how many of you have a code that is 1, 2, 3, 4 to unlock your phone? Probably. If we voted, I could guess. Let's see. We might do a poll.
Well,
and 1, 2, 3, 4
it's still a massive issue.
Yeah, it's
like even the number of people who use password for their security passwords and things like that. So yeah, it's sort of. I'll let you go. Yep. It was always lovely speaking with you.
Appreciate it. Where's your accent from?
Catch you later.
Where's your accent?
Oh, I'm Scottish, but I live in Texas, so I'm a bit confused.
You've probably got them completely confused in Texas. That is awesome. Well, thank you.
I've been here for about 10 years, so it depends who I'm speaking to as to which part takes over. So.
Can you give us a drawl, some sort of southern drawl with a Scottish accent? Is that
no?
Just flat out no.
I do say y'all, and I have changed from water to water because no one could understand water. So I've made my life a little bit easier. I've assimilated for something.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Grass Folks. Great to talk to you. We'll see you.
No worries. You have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Okay. Ruger says the joke's on you. He used 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see. I'm the only person in my family who locks their phone. I use facial recognition on mine because if I had a password that I had to enter, my kids would see me entering it and they would then get my password.
Call from Messy Ball.
Hello, Messy Ball. Great to talk to you. What's on your mind today?
Okay, so I have a question for people. If a parent had drugs in a locked drawer that was not a really secure lock, and their teenager got into it, or Ethan for that matter, or EC, let's call him. Let's say these parents, and he and his friend got into it and overdosed. Wouldn't people be calling for the parents to be charged with their death?
Yeah, I think they would.
How is it any different? If they didn't adequately secure, like the fact of the matter is he got the gun. So it wasn't adequately secured.
I think it would take some evidence. That now the scenario you said they did not lock him up. They did not lock up the drugs, right?
No, if they were let's say they were in a locked drawer, but the lock was easily picked by a couple of teenagers with a safety pin or, they found the key.
Well,
I mean,
let me answer this only because I do lock sports, so I understand how easy it is to pick a lock. If you buy a lock,
right, I know that.
If you buy a lock from say Lowe's or Home Depot, I can probably open it in less than a minute.
Right.
So I think a lock is better than nothing, but I think it would be hard to, if they did lock them up with some lock, unless it was like some toy, plastic, that doesn't need a key, you just pull on it opens. I think they wouldn't be charged.
But okay, let's say like a filing cabinet lock, and it was like their prescription medications. Those locks are pretty easy to open with a basic
paperclip.
Yeah. I mean, the parents put them away and put them under a lock, and let's say, they didn't tell the kid where it was, but the kids were, let's see what we can get into this weekend, and are fooling around, and let's see what mom and dad have in the office lock, or the lock in the office desk drawer. And, Ethan knew there was a gun. Sorry.
You're good.
The student knew there was a weapon, and he knew how to, because they showed it, like they locked and unlocked it, and it wasn't adequately stored and locked so that he could not get in, so that it wasn't adequately locked for him to not be able to get to it. Whereas they put it in a safe that had a combination lock that he could not get to, or a key lock that he did not have access to, or a fingerprint lock or such. He couldn't get to it. The fact of the matter is, we know he got to it, so it was not, whether or not they gave him the key or the password, or he just figured it out, it wasn't adequately locked.
This particular lock on the gun safe, I'm not a big fan. First of all, I would not call it a safe.
Right. Well, that's the kind of my point.
It's a box. It's a box with a lock on it.
Right.
But the law, do we want the law to say you need to have a safe that is fireproof for this many hours, or what do we want the laws to be extremely strict on this? Or do we just want to say be responsible or you'll be held accountable?
Well, that's basically what they're saying. They're saying they were neglectful in not adequately securing the weapon. And I see there's movement in the courtroom, so you may have to hang up. I've been going on for a while.
You're good. I appreciate it. The last thing I'll say, the important part is the gun that had the 000 held 222 pistols. Those were not the guns used in the firearm. So that safe, the safe was not, even though it had easy access, that was not where the gun was found. That's not where he got it from. It was in another box, which is more of a hard case that the gun was usually bought in. Typically, it comes from the manufacturer like that. They're not very secure. I mean, you could literally cut it open with a knife if you want, or like a razor knife if you wanted to. Wouldn't be easy, and you'd probably cut yourself. But they're not a really secure place to keep a gun, and we just don't have testimony to whether we know if it was locked in that or not.
Right, but either way, if it was locked, it wasn't adequately locked for a 17 or 15-year-old to not be able to get to it. And I think that's where the neglect comes. And aside from that, Mom admitted on the stand in her own words that she knew he was depressed. And if you're a responsible parent, I mean, no responsible adult puts that kind of weapon in the hands of a depressed 15-year-old, let alone a depressed 15-year-old boy.
I think the way she described the depression was different. Not that it was like clinical depression, only that he was feeling down because his friend just moved away. And with that understanding that just happened, I mean, the dog died, that was months ago, but the friend just barely moved away, just out of the blue. And she's like, "Hey, here's something he likes doing. Let's go shooting. Let's try to cheer him up." Literally, the reaching out to help her son might have been the very thing that, that led him to thinking about what he could do with it. I don't know.
But I understand that perspective, but to me, that's negligent and irresponsible. I mean, would you, if your son was sad because of all these tragedies in life, would you go and get him that to make him happy?
No.
Or would you try to redirect him into finding other things to make him happy?
I wouldn't, because, but I can't say
because you're intelligent and you're present in your son's life.
But I let my kids shoot. I mean, I teach them how to shoot. I think it's important, that they learn how to do that.
But they don't do it without you.
I plead the fifth. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
But if they were depressed, would they be doing it without you? If you were seeing signs that they were down, would you back off for a little bit with that? The problem is maybe not.
I'm getting to the point where I'm saying I'm judging them for how they're parenting, when there's plenty of evidence that they were trying to parent well. Now, they're doing it very differently than me. They're doing things that I wouldn't engage in, but you don't get, those pictures of them playing board games and things like that if, there's no connection with your kid. Your kid wouldn't be sitting around the table playing board games with you if you didn't want to. I think there were times that they were good parents. And I have a hard time punishing them because they parent differently than me. And I just don't think the state's proved it. I realize they should be more responsible with their firearms, 100%. And if they had charged them with neglect over that, I would say yes, but I just can't see the gross negligence. But we can agree to disagree. And thank you so much for the call. You were very eloquent, and thanks for expressing yourself so well. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Call from
Kimberly.
Hello, Kimberly. This is Scott. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Just great. I'm waiting for some motion in the court, but so far nothing. What's on your mind?
I just needed to respond a little bit to the caller you just had about the locking of the gun.
Okay.
First of all, there is no law in the state of Michigan at the time of this incident that said guns had to be secured and locked. Right. So that shouldn't even be on the table.
Right. It's a morality issue versus a legality issue. And there was no legal obligation.
Yes. And second of all, to judge locking a gun up is locking a gun up. I think people are a little out of touch with the fact that 15-year-old boys, and I have a 27-year-old daughter and a 26-year-old son, and my son has shot since he was about 9 or 10 years old, starting with hunting and bows and so on and so forth. But children, teenagers hide things. They don't tell their parents everything. They hide things. They can be secretive. They can be thinking that these parents are some egregious, neglectful individuals. None of that has been proven. They do not seem like parents any different than the hundreds of parents that I know. And I think it's just awful. I think this prosecutor is out for blood, and so is the town. And I completely understand the horribleness, the heartache, the heartbreak is just overwhelming. But what's going to happen? Your 17-year-old sneaks out of your house at 3 a.m., takes your vehicle while you're sleeping, goes drinking with his buddies, causes an accident and kills somebody. We're going to start locking up the parents. They didn't even know the kid was gone. I would have a huge issue if these parents had read that journal or the child had said, I'm going to shoot up the school to them.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Well, we don't know if he did, but there's no evidence that he did.
He did by what the mother testified to.
Yeah, there's no evidence that they knew of that.
No.
I can see why they charged, but I think it should be not guilty.
I agree with that, but don't get me wrong either. I mean, I don't think the parents are perfect. Could there have been other charges? Absolutely. Absolutely, there could have been lesser charges.
You know, responsibility is very, very important. But it sounds like a witch hunt. And I'm so afraid that the jury is going to come back with a guilty verdict based on emotions.
They might.
And that is
taken a long time. So we'll see.
I think that's good for the defense,
yeah,
from what I've heard. But I think it's very sad. And I think it's even going to be sadder, too, if it comes back a hung jury. And not only the defendant, but the prosecutors and the parents and the victims all have to go through this again.
Yeah. The defendant stays in jail. The families start over. More court dates, more testimony, more pictures being shown, more newspaper articles. It's terrible.
Yeah. And again, I don't disagree. The parents, didn't have some responsibility here. And I don't believe that they're victims, but I kind of empathize a little bit when Jennifer said they lost everything. They've lost their house, their incomes, their life, their child. And again, not taking it away or calling them a victim, but to think that they are unaffected in absolutely horrific ways by what their son did. And I really believe if they didn't know, how can you expect them to be responsible if they didn't know what was going on?
Yeah. Great points. Thank you very much. I just saw a comment.
No, thank you, and I love your show. I love to talk to you with my first time calling. I'm usually quietly hiding.
Well, you did great.
Galaxy, but
all these first-time callers doing a great job. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much, Scott. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me address this really quickly because this is a good point. Michelle, thanks for pointing this out. There was no cable lock in the SIG case. That's the one that was used at the school in the police fix. The cable lock they kept holding up was the one from the 22 case found in the kitchen. And the cable lock, when they say it was still an original package, they're in a Ziploc bag, a long Ziploc bag. So it's not like sealed in the plastic. It's literally you can open it, take it out, use it, put it back, close it again. That's a possibility. And I had a lot of issues with the officer who said it looked like the bag had never been used. Because I keep my extra cable locks in the bag that I got them in as well. And they look like they haven't been used, but I've used them before as well. Let's see. Hello. Hello. Oh, helps if I turn the volume up, but I didn't. Sorry about that. Still no sound in court. The calls are coming in so fast. I think it's actually hanging up.
Call from
there are too many calls.
Ed C. again.
Ed C. round 2. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey Scott, how's it going?
Doing well.
You know that last woman you had on the phone? She hit it on the head. She was good. Excellent. She was right. Yeah, no, she's very good. But I don't want to bring up. I'm probably the wrong person to say this, but I grew up without a father, and my mom decided she wasn't going to hang around, so she was a telephone mom, and I had a younger sister. And so we were ruled by a phone call and everything else. And I grew up during the 60s and 70s. So you want to talk about rough in New York City during that time. And I didn't go around killing people. So, it's not... And I was depressed. I still am. And I have anxiety attacks and all that other stuff. But, I don't know how you can say one way or the other. It's how a person is. And I understand on the mom's side what she did or did not do, but this is not a thing about justice. This is more of a revenge kind of thing, I think. They just want to make people pay. And the problem is when do we stop punishing everybody for everything and start letting people, issue the problem? The problem was the kid had an issue. End of story. It's not the mom's fault that the kid had an issue. She brought the kid a gun. They all did. They had 3 other guns. If this kid wanted to do what he wanted to do, he would have done it with anything else. And just to say because it was a gun means nothing. Look at the Boston bombers. They didn't have guns.
Yeah.
They used pressure pots.
I believe people that are hell bent on causing damage will find a way to do it.
Yeah.
Banning the tool that the last person used is not going to stop the next person from doing something similar. But
I hate to say like gun laws, which everyone says we need tighter gun laws. The only people who respect the gun law is the guys who respect laws to begin with. Do you honestly believe that somebody who's going around that decides he's going to do something illegal cares if he gets the gun legally or illegal, or if he worries about a background check?
Ed, I've heard that a lot, and I've actually been the person who said that saying many times in the past life, I guess. But I will acknowledge that the prevalence of guns and the prevalence of them being stored legally but not secured is a major problem in gun crime. That many guns that are on the streets in gangs were stolen from houses where they were not secured. They're stolen from glove boxes where they're left in the car. So I agree that only the criminals will break the law, but if we ban guns, it won't fix the problem. But if we treat our guns better and secure them better, it will help the problem in a big way.
It might. Yeah, but one quick one that I had to say about that, with 2 callers away, where the lady said something about if the kid breaks in and ODs on drugs. First of all, if you're OD, and I know here in New York City, if that happened and the drugs were illegal drugs, then yeah, the parents would definitely be charged with the possession of an illegal substance and contributing to the death of a minor.
Yeah,
that would be the charge here. If it was legal drugs, prescription, no, they wouldn't charge him. There'd be no charge because it was legal drugs. So guns, at that case, were legal. So you can't charge somebody for a kid that did something like that because of it illegal. That's what people got to understand.
Hey, we've got motion in court here.
Go.
So
all right, have a good one. See you later.
Thanks, appreciate it. Bye. Okay, we're at 4:30. Let me say this. The judge is here. I don't know what's happening here. We're at 4:30. I think they're just trying to schedule and figure out what they're going to do for the rest of the day. I'm going to hold off on any phone calls till we find out what's up here in court. Waiting for the prosecution right now. We're at 4 hours and 40 minutes of deliberation right now when it hits the 400-minute mark. I think it's the end of day. I don't think we have a verdict.
Your Honor, calling People versus Jennifer Crumbley, case number 22279-990-FH. Here, McDonald, on behalf of People.
Thank you, Mark Keast, on behalf of People.
Thank you, Shannon Smith, on behalf of Jennifer Crumbley, who sits to my left.
All right, we made contact with the jury. They said they want to stay till 4:45 and that they probably want to come back tomorrow. But unless there's an objection, I might release two of the other 5 sequestered jurors and tell them that they're sequestered at their home. Do you object to that?
Not at all.
No.
No objection.
We've given them puzzles and Sudoku, and that they're probably losing their minds. So
pulling their hair out.
I was going to release 2 or 3 and have them go about their business, but they would still be sequestered. So they would still be subject to sequestration of the court and not be permitted to be spoken to.
I meant 6 hours and 40 minutes, not 4 hours and 40 minutes. Sorry about that.
Any preference? 2, 3?
Thank you.
If that's so reliable, Your Honor, I'd say 3. Can we approach her?
Sure.
Okay, not sure why they're approaching over this one. The judge says she's going to let 2 of the 5 jurors go. I imagine that 2 of the jurors have been complaining. I don't know. But how would you like to be the 3 that have to stay? Being sequestered in your home is very different than being sequestered here. I'm also surprised that she is keeping all 5 of them through the deliberation. I mean, they really, really want a verdict here. Okay, that's why they have 5 extra jurors. But those 5 jurors have been sitting there in a room doing nothing, doing absolutely nothing. Oh, look at the B-roll we're getting here. That's awesome. But they're doing absolutely nothing. They cannot talk about the case. They cannot deliberate. They're sitting in another room. They can't even listen to the deliberations. She says they've been doing Sudoku. We've been giving them puzzles, and they're just bored. They get fed. They get the same crappy jury pay that the others get, and they have to sit there. So she might release 2 of the 5 and have 3 of them come back. It looks like we're going to be done for the day at 5 tonight, or 4:45, and then excuse them. So we'll be out by 5. Looks like we're bringing the jury in. Yeah, we have sidebars when the jury is not here, but when the jury's here, we just talk about everything openly. See that white wall behind them? That white dry erase board is not straight, but the camera has been adjusted to make it look like it's straight. They should have adjusted based on the lines on, say, like the granite wall or the marble wall behind the judge or something. Maybe tomorrow we'll get a level camera. We're going to pause it at 4:03 for the day.
Good afternoon, you may be seated. I know you guys have all had an exciting day. We've completed puzzles, done Sudoku.
Oh, it's the
One of you
alternates.
was sleeping on the floor. I won't name names or pick on any of you. I'm so sorry. Hopefully you realize the reason behind it. Okay, so here, the 12 of you have not come to a verdict yet, so they're going to be returned tomorrow. But life happens, and in the event that one of those jurors was indisposed, we would need one of you to fill in for them, and they would be instructed to start deliberations all the way over again. So that's the reason for it. That being said, I'm going to dismiss 3 of you by blind draw today. Actually, I shouldn't use the word dismiss. I'm going to have 3 of you not return tomorrow, but you're still sequestered. You understand what I'm saying? So some of these people sitting out here would love to talk to you, but they are not allowed to talk to you when you're not allowed to talk to them. And it's the same as every day when you leave here. You're still sequestered. I just think that you would prefer to be doing your laundry or going to work or doing whatever it is, but I still have to trust you to not discuss the case. All right? Are there any questions about that? But I'm going to have 2 of you come back. I think you've already ordered your lunch, so I'm hoping the 3 of you ordered something we like. No? No. Yeah.
My question is, if we're one of the 3 that go home and spend the day at home tomorrow, how do you know if will you call us as soon and let us know what to do the following day?
Absolutely. I feel bad enough that I feel like I kidnapped you. Okay, so I feel bad enough that you're here. I know that you know why. Okay, because when this is all over, I'll tell you stories about strange things that happen and jurors and, just life happens.
I think we just have the 5 jurors
as
in
you
there
know,
right
this
now.
is a
The
very
5 alternates.
long, emotional, and frankly expensive process. To start over would be devastating for everyone in the room. So I appreciate you. I feel bad, but I would feel worse if we didn't have enough jurors to finish deliberations. Okay. So 3 of you, I'm going to pick 3 numbers by blind draw, and then you can exit, and they're going to take you down to your car. And we have your phone numbers. You are still sequestered, all of you, and the other 2 have to return back in the morning. Okay. And I'm going to tell you again that during the trial, do not read, listen to, or watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they could give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. So to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction. So do not go on social media, don't post anything, don't go on Facebook, don't do research, don't discuss the case with anyone, whether you're at home or at work or here spending the day with me again. All right? So I'm going to pick 3 of you by blind draw, and the other 2 have to return at 9 o'clock in the morning. All right?
Sorry, she's not being loud. I've cranked 20 decibels of gain on this. That's why we have so much volume from her right now.
Juror 17. You can be sequestered at home. Juror in seat 4. You can be sequestered at home.
I'm surprised there's a
juror
cheering.
in seat 10. 10. You can be sequestered at home. All right. You can bring
The other two.
things with you. You're 9 and 15. Jurors in seat 9 and 15. I mean, obviously you can't bring a newspaper or something like that. You still can't research the case. But if you have work, you can finish my crocheting for me. If you know how to crochet, anything like that. I know it has to be really boring, but I think you understand the purpose. You can't talk to anybody. Again, a lot of people here would love to talk to you, but none of you are allowed to talk to the press or discuss the case with anyone. All right? And we do have your phone numbers. So I'm going to release you to go back to Judge Anderson's jury room, and then you're going to be escorted out of the building. And then the 2 remaining jurors, if you could come here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right? Any questions about that? Okay. We appreciate you. Thank you for understanding.
All rise for the jury.
I don't know why Shannon's keeping an eye on the camera so much. She's very much interested in what's happening back here.
Okay, now I'm going to bring another jury. And if you can all.
Okay, so now the other jury's going to stop deliberating. And they're going to come in. Okay, so now the 12 that are deliberating will be coming in. We're going to stand for them as well. At least everyone in the court will. So we're going to stop at 4:08. Can I bring a friend? Just somebody to talk to. Cass, that's what I'm thinking. They can't leave home. They can't go back to work. They are still sequestered. They have to stay away from everything. But they can just be at home. Sarah, they can't watch anything about the case. So if there's anything on TV about the case, they have to turn it off and report it to the judge as to what they saw. Jackie, I'm with you on this, and it frustrates me. Sequestered seems more separate than her version.
All rise for the jury.
So I'm going to have you come back tomorrow morning. What time would you like to come back? 9 o'clock?
Do we like 9? 9 is good.
9 o'clock? Okay, you're going to return tomorrow at 9 o'clock. We appreciate your efforts. We appreciate you taking this seriously. This is very serious.
Do we like 9?
And I need to tell you that during the trial, do not read, listen to, watch any news reports about the case. Under the law, the evidence you consider to decide the case must meet certain standards. For example, witnesses must swear to tell the truth, and the lawyers must be able to cross-examine them. Because news reports do not have to meet these standards, they will give you incorrect or misleading information that might unfairly favor one side. So to be fair to both sides, you must follow this instruction. Do not go on social media, don't post, don't go on Facebook, don't do research, don't discuss the case with anyone. All right? Any questions about the schedule? We'll be kind of at your will, so get a good night's sleep. Maybe sleeping on it will help you, right? Stay healthy. We appreciate you. And we'll see you at 9 o'clock, right?
All rise for the jury.
The judge saying maybe sleeping on it will help you seemed She has to be careful. She can't tell them they need to hurry and reach a verdict.
I'll let the jury go first. 'Cause I just want to make sure that the jury, both sets of jurors are on.
I think the woman's voice that we heard, do we think 9? I think that voice, that's our foreman, our forelady.
So we'll see you at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, thank you.
Just going to make sure that the jurors are on.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, and with that, the judge is off. We'll be done with the feed for today. The jury has gone home, so there will be no verdict today. Anyone who chose anything other than what's for lunch tomorrow on our poll is now out of the running. Go ahead and I don't know why everyone's just standing there, honestly. The judge is gone. The jury is gone. I think they're waiting. They want to make sure the jury is cleared out of the hallway before they release the defendant, because they go down the same hallway and they don't want them to run into each other. So we're going to kill the audio here. Take a call really quickly.
Call from
Joe.
Hello, Joe. This is Scott. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. What's on your mind today?
I just had one comment. Everybody's hung up on the gun lock, but there was 3 guns. Every gun comes with a gun lock. So where's the other 2 gun locks at? That could have been used on the SIG.
Makes sense. I don't think. Well, the 2 guns that they have in the safe were 22 caliber, and most cable locks don't work with 22 caliber because the diameter of the cable lock is too large. I've never found one, and if it does fit inside a 22 caliber firearm, it probably is not big enough to be substantial. It could probably be easily defeated. So that's I don't know.
When you go to when you go to the police department and get a gun lock,
yeah,
all those gun locks are the same diameter. I have few of them sitting here.
I've never had one that will work in a 22 caliber.
Oh, really?
The little hasp that passes through the barrel is too large. Sometimes a little plastic bushing on it or something, because usually you don't want just the metal down the barrel. So it usually has a plastic bushing, and usually I can't get that through the diameter. But it would work in a 9, a 40, and a 40. Just 45. All the other calibers works just great.
Yeah. Okay.
Great point, though.
I just thought of that.
No,
right.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so they're leaving for the day. We're going to wrap up here for the day as well, unless you guys have anything to talk about. That's I'm surprised. I'm surprised I didn't have a verdict today. Honestly, I thought it would be a quick one. This, I think, is a good sign for the defense. It's got to be good. Let's see what your take is on that.
Call from
Shannon from Orlando.
Shannon from Orlando, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. What are your thoughts as we go into day 2 of jury deliberation?
Well, I just have been watching this, and it's kind of been really heavy on my heart because I lost my son to suicide 4 months ago.
I'm sorry,
Shannon. But it's been 5 months ago. But he was older. He was 30.
It doesn't make it any easier.
No, it doesn't. But what I wanted to say was, for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but you never think that your child is going to do something like that.
Yeah.
It never entered my mind. He had mental illness. He had, been to therapy. He was in a treatment center for 2 years. Yeah. He came back, but I'm just saying, I never thought that he was going to do something like that. Yeah. And so I cannot, I don't think that the parents are actually going to, think that they thought, oh yeah, he's going to do this, so I have to, do something about it. I don't even think that, it never crossed their mind.
Yeah, and the way the law is written, they had to guess this was happening. They had to predict before it happened that this was going to happen. Right. Or it was likely to happen. Without evidence that they knew, I just can't get to conviction on this one. Shannon, my heart breaks for you. A lot of support for you in chat as well.
Well, I appreciate that, but thank you so much. And I like your perspective on things. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
we'll
see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Let me show you something, guys, that's a little bit lighter than what we've been talking about today. This is our our J Hatch counter, Kowalski versus J Hatch. We've got this up. I'm going to put this up on, I think, the Top Mark Media channel. And the reason why is because tonight Dr. Joe is doing a interview. He's starting in just over an hour. He's going to be talking with Nick Whitney, who is the co-counsel, supported Greg Anderson in this trial. And I was going to redirect you over there so we can talk with that. And he wanted to bring this up and share that on his channel, which I think is great. So I'm going to go to work getting this up on the Top Mark Media channel. Hopefully I can leave it up for a while. I'm trying to find a way to get it to run nonstop, and even when we're live on this channel without tying up my equipment. But with that said, we've got a lot of thoughts. We'll be in Verdict Watch tomorrow, and we're gonna take some calls as well tomorrow. I think we'll be done with. Thank you, Samantha. There's the link to Top Mark where the feed's going to be up later tonight. I think we're going to be done tomorrow. I don't see this going long. Either we're going to be hung jury or it's going to be a verdict of some sort tomorrow. So fingers crossed there. After that, if you liked what we do here today, please come back. Click the subscribe button. We would love that. We'd love you to join us every day. We do this every day with trials across the country, as we mostly deal with murder, but occasionally we'll have some civil trials, some other trials that are interesting, even from small courts in little towns in far off the beaten path. So please join us. We'd like you to be part of this community. It's a fun community where we don't always agree, but we do have civil conversations and learn from each other. So I like to think this is the best place on the internet to watch true crime. So let's see. Let me get a couple things set up here really quickly. Back. That's not it. Let's see. Let's see, update with Nick. Okay, there we go. Okay, I have to find the one. So I've linked. We're going to patch over to Dr. Joe's feed from here. If you don't follow Dr. Joe, he was the I guess the star witness that helped secure the verdict in favor of Maya in the Maya trial. And he's going to be interviewing Nick Whitney, which is going to be amazing. They're both great people. I've met them both. They're wonderful individuals. I think you'll love it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And so we're going to send you over there once we're done here. Thank you all for being here today. This is a great place. I think it's, even though we're dealing with some very heavy issues and some hard things to talk about, I think that it helps that we're together, that we can talk about it in an environment that is open to discussion. And I don't know, this is just something I haven't been able to find anywhere else, and that's because of you guys. Thank you for making it great here. Tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love, smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again tomorrow morning. It'll be 8:30. The jury's going to start deliberating at 9. So we're going to, maybe they'll have a vote and say, yep, we're ready to go first thing in the morning. It could be. So thank you all. Thanks to the wonderful mods who helped today. This is no easy task, and we've really put a lot of pressure on them. We've had a lot of new people here who didn't know that we're a nice, friendly location. So the mods had to carefully steer things a little bit, but you guys did wonderfully. And mods, thank you so much. All right. Are you going to be on Runkle tonight? I think he is on tonight. I don't know what he's talking about, but I don't know if he wants to be on or not. I haven't planned on it. I think he's capable of doing just fine without me. Weather Watch is clocking out. He's done. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Please be good to each other. Bye.
we going to break for